this is the second year that the trustees have done this. Last year, we decided that after seeing and hearing about innovation and creativity in our schools and in our communities and workplaces, we decided that this award would be created to recognize these innovative employees in some manner. So last year, this began, and there is a perpetual plaque in the hall above the water cooler that has your name on it, the winners this year, and the winners from last year. So make sure you have a look at that, and indeed another photo op. But before we give out our awards tonight, we have two young people here at our meeting tonight that Jeff Campbell has brought along. And these two young people are the designers and creators of the awards that our award winners will be receiving tonight. So Jeff, would you come forward, Principal Campbell, along with your two students, and share a little information about them for us, please? And the awards are on the back table for those of you who haven't seen them yet.
Thank you, Trustee Cartner. It's a real pleasure for me as principal to introduce to you Nerys Voss and Hazar Helagar. These two students, if you've had a chance to look at the work that they've created, are unbelievably talented. I think what's really remarkable about these two students as well is their passion for the arts filters through the school. They inspire their students to get involved in art. They are involved in the Intermediate Art Club, and they've also got a number of special needs students really into arts. So, you know, when we talk about arts being alive at RDHS, this is a real testament to the arts there, and we're really, really proud of these two young people. When I asked Nerys and Hazar as to what inspired them, they spent a whole day just coming up with a concept of the award, and I asked them, so what does the award mean? And so they looked at the traditional book on a lectern to represent knowledge, and the branches coming out of the book represent sort of that learning and growth through learning. And I said, well, what does the rose mean? Well, the rose is something that's very beautiful and really exemplifies our award winners. The fact that they took the time to create something that's innovative, to really add to our system, there's beauty in them and what they've done. So I thought, wow, that's really powerful, and it just shows how mature these young people are. I want you to continue in what your passion. I think what's really remarkable is that you folks have inspired students at our school, and it means a lot to me as principal to give you this award. And on behalf of the school, we want to sort of just give you something to put up in your art studio. Some words of inspiration: never stop dreaming, make it happen. Today is the day. Don't worry, be happy. There's one for you. Let's see if I get this right. Nerys and Hazar, congratulations on some really great work, guys.
Thanks once again on behalf of the trustees to these two fine students. And I hope Principal Campbell has expressed exactly what you would have said if you were at the microphone, and I'm sure he has done that very well. The Board of Trustees are giving each of these students $125 to pursue their interest in the arts and continue that throughout the years to come. I know art supplies are expensive, but that'll help you a little bit, so congratulations to you both again. Now on to our award winners. I'm going to invite Rich Tamlin to come forward, Vice Principal of Gananoque Intermediate School, and Doug Bowlby to come forward as the award winner for this year. And Rich will explain just why he nominated him.
Thanks, Trustee Cartner, and good evening, everyone. It is with great pleasure and pride that we recognize Mr. Doug Bowlby for the Trustee Innovation Award. Doug has been a teacher with the Upper Canada District School Board since 1997. He has taught at many schools in the region, and presently he is a leader amongst his colleagues in terms of instructional practice here at Gananoque Intermediate and Secondary Schools. I personally have worked with Doug for the past 3 years, going on 4, both in a teaching capacity and most recently as an administrator. Doug has always been one to create with regards to his teaching. Due to this fact, his students have a compelling reason to come to school on time and prepared to learn. They know that Doug will support their individual needs, and therefore preferential learning is at the forefront of Doug's teaching. To demonstrate this fact, I will outline just but one particular learning experience that his students engaged in this past year. To begin, I'll provide some background. One of Doug's students, McKenna Modler, was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2010. Being a teacher of character, Doug prepared for all of his students in advance with special attention to McKenna's situation. For example, he chose to begin the year with a book for his class that deals with the sensitive issue of living with an illness. The book, A Fault in Our Stars, portrays the life of a teenager living with cancer. Doug, out of care and concern for McKenna, contacted her parents before the school year began to discuss the book. Doug met with McKenna's family at their family farm. Doug asked what, if any, concerns they had and gave them a copy of the book to read as a family. Opening up the discussion around such a sensitive topic allowed for an instant connection between Doug and his family. I can attest to how much this meant to the family, as they are neighbors of mine. It was mutually agreed and decided that the book was an excellent choice for the use with students. It should be noted here that McKenna, after enduring chemotherapy, saw that many families that she met through this experience struggled with the financial costs associated with cancer treatment. As such, she created her own charity called McKenna's Dream to help support families that had difficulty meeting the financial demands of the treatments. McKenna's Dream has raised over $130,000 to date. As the school year began, Doug and his class discussed how they would support McKenna's charity. This idea came to be due to the awareness that was created through reading the book. The students then became passionate about helping those in need of treatment. They realized that they needed to capture an audience before they could take action. This was accomplished by creating a short animated film called McKenna's Dream. This project was not only involved a real-world situation that had real-world effects and creative use of technology, but most importantly, this experience was student-led and driven from its infancy. You see, what Doug did was provide the students with an opportunity to make a difference through the selection of a book and by having an open mindset to see where the students would take their learning experience. What is innovative about this project is not the film itself, but the building and nurturing of a collaborative team that accomplished the task. Doug strategically intervened and facilitated when necessary to provide feedback, and then stepped back and let the students drive the experience. And in the end, the students produced a professional-looking film with a powerful message. To assist in spreading the message, the students wanted a big film debut. We gathered the entire student body to watch the film together, invited media, and students quickly spread the word via social media. And Doug incentivized the launch by telling students that if the film garnered a particular number of hits, they would be rewarded in different ways and at a certain number. This helped to spread the word internationally, as Doug received a tweet from a professor at a school in Europe who viewed the film and retweeted the link. Media outlets such as CBC and CKWS picked up the story and helped spread the conversation as well. You can tell from these stories that the students were at the head of the creation and the design of this film. To further advance the message, Doug entered the film into the Toronto International Film Festival's Kids Shorts category. The film was viewed and accepted as part of the Kids Short Festival this past April. All of Doug's students and some parents boarded a coach bus and traveled to Toronto to take part in this red carpet event. And Doug submitted the film to our own Reel-to-Reel festival as well, and to a regional film festival supported by our local health unit too. To further demonstrate Doug's love of teaching and learning, we need look no further than his personal commitment to his profession. Our principal, Chris Boston, asked all of our staff to write statements of commitment in regards to their profession. This is Doug's statement as a quote. I'm committed to confronting those that make life miserable to a student. I will not shy away from any difficult conversations. I will be honest with parents even if it's not what they want to hear. I'm committed to being a great listener for both staff and students. I want all to feel that I can be trusted with their stories. If I don't have the answers or advice, I will point them in the right direction. If all these things can be in place, true learning can happen. A school that feels safe to a student is the optimal learning environment. We need students to feel that way so that we can teach fearlessly." Unquote. One can tell from this statement that Doug Bowlby is committed to creating a learning environment that is conducive to all of the students and their success. As quoted by our principal, I would suggest that his accomplishment with the film project was in setting conditions, rigorous care, relational trust, and high expectations for all that allowed him to fearlessly step aside and to let the students take over. In conclusion, Doug Bowlby is a caring, competent, and innovative teacher who creates a learning environment for his students that teaches character as well as the necessary skills and competencies necessary to be successful in today's world. He deserves the Trustee Innovation Award due to his professionalism and his fearless and creative approach to his career. Doug focuses on student learning. His efforts are reflected in his student success. Thank you to the Board of Trustees for recognizing Doug's achievements, and thank you, Doug, for your time and dedication to student learning.
Thank you, Rich, and Doug, congratulations once again. Well deserved. Next, I'd like to have Susan Marble come forward, who is an educational assistant from Rideau Vista School, and Jennifer and Teresa are going to speak on her behalf as to why they nominated her as well.
Thanks. Anyone who's had the pleasure and privilege of working with Susan Marble knows exactly why she's won this award. Susan approaches every day with what can we do today to make a difference in children's lives. No problem is too large or too complicated or too messy to get into. She always finds a way to change something, look at it from a new direction, alter some kind of piece of equipment, whatever we need to do to make a difference in kids' lives. And not just the kids that she works with. She looks at the whole school in the same lens. Whether it's a staff member or a child or a parent, she can find a way to make their day better and make a kid's life more open to the possibilities that they have. I feel very privileged to work with Susan, and Teresa's going to say a few more words.
I just wanted to add to, Susan's a very quiet person and she doesn't like to be in the spotlight, so I'm going to be brief, but I do want to recognize her because although she's quiet, her actions speak volumes when it comes to putting kids first. And as Jen said, it's all about being innovative and creative and making anything work in order for those kids to be included in everything that we do at the school. And we're so proud to have her as a part of our team. She truly inspires not just the kids every day, but us as teachers and as support staff, and we are all just one big family there. And I know that there are many parents that I am also speaking on behalf of Susan that they would say she has made a huge difference in the lives of their children. So we thank her, and we're so glad to be here to share that with you. So thank you.
Next, I'd like to call Diane Mount, a teacher at Rockland Public School, who has been nominated and is a winner of the award this year. And Diana Cortellani, who is the chair of the Parent Council, just filled that position once again this year. So I asked her to come forward as she nominated Diane for this award.
Thank you, Carol. So I was asked tonight to say a couple of words as to why Mrs. Mount was chosen for the award. And I have so many reasons and so many stories I could tell you, but I'm just going to pick out some three key ones. First of all, Mrs. Mount, as you know, I've been with council several years, and one thing you and I discussed along with other parents, that the way the school is located in Rockland is kind of hidden in a side road and very industrial style looking, and we always wondered why. There was no greenery outside the school to make the school a bit more inviting for the students, and we find, speaking with other parents, that when the school doesn't look inviting, the students really don't have this passion to go in there, and we said, we need to do something about this. So, Mrs. Mount started brainstorming and talking and networking throughout, and slowly started up a 3-year plan to get the school beautiful. And at the school right now, we have a beautiful map that she has made for the greening of the school, which we have a project on the go. So the first phase, we got beautiful flower beds in the front of the school and around the flag posts of the school. And it was beautiful because now community members that are walking by the school have noticed the change, and neighbors, and said how great and how lovely this school is looking, and have actually joined us in digging. And I've had my fingers dirty as well, Mrs. Mount. And there's nothing lovelier than getting your hands dirty, and also to bring the teachers and the other students in, Mrs. Mount. And Mrs. Mount incorporates science and nature into everything she does with the children, bringing the children on board, and just to see them out there after hours, not just during the day, but after hours digging in the dirt is something phenomenal, which will lead me to something else too. Part of that greening goes further into the fact that part of her project, unfortunately, we had sadness in the school. We had a well-loved EA pass away last year. So Mrs. Mount spearheaded a beautiful memorial garden for Miss Peggy Maxwell, and there's 2 other lovely teachers here today that came to celebrate Mrs. Mount's success on that. The garden was monumentous because the children, the school had this cloud of grief over it, and Mrs. Mount used her great spirit and character in there, and brought the children to take this negative feeling into a positive, and had the children create and be part of this lovely garden with white flowers. The children named the beautiful moon garden, where they can go there and reflect and cherish the loveliness of this beautiful, lovely assistant. And that's another beautiful thing, Mrs. Mount, that you've done. But more so into other stuff, into the actual classroom, Mrs. Mount utilizes the science in every aspect with her children. And I've heard, as the chair of the council, millions and millions of parents, not millions, that's exaggerating, but many, many parents, including myself, who I had the pleasure of my son having Mrs. Mount as a teacher. Grade 1, my son was, a little bit, I was seeing that he had difficulties, and he came into grade 2 and he had Mrs. Mount. And Mrs. Mount just found magic in the way she reached down into the soul of my child and could see and take his negative energy and negative action and convert that into something positive, and he just blossomed. And she did that using nature once again. She had a beautiful butterfly farm in the classroom, which taught the kids to go and wait. I mean, you should explain it. It's just awesome. The kids were learning how this beautiful, butterfly would come to be from the cocoon and all the way straight through, teaching them patience and teaching how to care and to be patient and loving. And that came directly from Mrs. Mount Hart. And there's so many other stories like this I can tell you about. But Mrs. Mount, countless hours after work, she went over and above and went to Toyota and several other companies. We just received a $2,000 grant to put trees in our school from Toyota. That's all you, Mrs. Mount. And, the children, the other teachers of the school, the principal, we just love you to death, and we'd be so lost without you. Never leave. Never leave, my dear. And I know that we're on phase 2 of the project, and we have a huge phase 3 coming up. We want to touch base with our local contractors and build a beautiful outdoor classroom so that children can actually have classrooms outside. That's all you, my dear. So hopefully that's thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Principal Palmer for being here tonight to support Diane in receiving this award as well. So thank you, Jason, for being here. Next, I'd like to call on Stacy McCready, Principal of Russell Public School, and Stacy nominated Catherine McDonald Froats for this award. Catherine is an EA who was at Rockland Public last year with Stacy and Russell, and she's off to another school now, but they're fortunate to have you as well, RO.
Well, I am honored to present Catherine McDonald Froats for this Trustee Innovation Award. Katie was an educational assistant at Russell Public School last year. Half of Katie's day was spent in the kindergarten class working with 2 students who use sign language to communicate. Katie took it upon herself to learn sign language and then taught it to the rest of the class. She realized what was necessary for 2 of her students was good for all of her students. Every day, Katie spent 20 minutes a day teaching the students to sign by signing to songs. She used universal design while creating opportunities for these two students to communicate with their peers. Katie not only helped the emotional well-being of these two students, she created a safe and nurturing environment for all of the students while they learned new signs together. At our school Christmas concert, the kindergarten students performed an entire song to the audience using sign language. This not only demonstrated Katie's commitment to meeting the accessibility standards, but promoted our philosophy of all means all. The students that Katie worked with knew that they belonged and that everyone was accepted. One day, I arrived in my office to find an invitation made by the kindergarten class, inviting me to the Signing Time Spring Show. I attended the show and watched in awe as each student used sign language to present a song. They were beaming with pride that they had learned another language. Katie also works closely with the families of the children she works with, as well as her teacher, DECE, and the regional staff. She continuously tracks progress and communicates with the families so that her program is mirroring what the families are doing at home. Katie transferred to Rothwell Osnabrück this year, and although we dearly miss her, we are certain that she is touching the lives of many new students at her new school. Congratulations, Katie.
Thank you, Stacy, and congratulations to you once again, Catherine. Last but not least, we have Blake Seward here, a teacher at SFDCI, Smith Falls, and he is going to present to us the winner of the award from Smith Falls Collegiate, Mason Black. And I would like to thank Dave Fisher for being here, Vice Principal at SFDCI, to support this team.
Thank you, Dave, for being here. Lisa, how does this work? Do I cue you or?
No, I'm gonna get that ready for you right now.
I'll just start here. So, the sweet spot of teaching is a combination of authentic practice, enhancement of what is possible within our curriculum, and enthusiastic engagement from students as they work on a project. And as I'm reading this is the app that was created by the students at SF. In many ways, this is the mantra of Mason's approach to teaching. 2 years ago, Mason began mapping out a potential project that would be cross-boundary learning between history and computer science, two disciplines not often considered subjects that you can marry together. This is the culmination of his idea. These are the regiments that the students wrote. You'll see here maps. We have 160,000 soldiers data input on this cell phone app that's been accepted by Microsoft. On 6 June 1944, approximately 22,000 Canadians landed on the shores in Normandy, France, on what is codenamed D-Day. Several thousand were wounded and 359 were killed. On this day, in Canada's and the world's history, the shape of the Second World War would change dramatically. However, in typical Canadian fashion, little has been done to examine this day from the perspective of the soldier landing on the beach, and nothing has been done in the creation of an app for D-Day, and Mason and his students are the first. The goal was to take soldier biography research completed by students in Canadian history and, if you will, re-image this work through the creation of a cell phone app that includes maps designed by students. Each movement of a map actually requires a complete mathematical equation to be done. Every single micro movement of a map. It requires thousands of calculations. The app design and layout designed by students. Every line of coding to make this possible, some 50,000 lines of coding, written and tested, was completed by students. And the biographies, far more extensive than anything previously completed, written by students. So to do this, Mason took the road less traveled, pulling himself away from the front of the classroom and encouraged the students to explore, design, and create in a student-centered learning environment. What Mason and his students were able to achieve is, I believe, what so many of us strive to attain: authentic learning whereby the teacher is the facilitator. I want to take a few minutes and simply highlight what Mason was doing, Mason and the students were doing here when they submitted this app design to Microsoft. Our understanding is 50% of the apps are actually rejected. Microsoft will take the app and they will test it. They test it for bugs, they test it to crash, and it didn't crash. And they actually accepted the app, which is free of charge now on the Windows phones for anybody to download. The Centennial, so where's Mason going to go with this now? The Centennial of the Great War is upon Canada and other nations around the world. And to capitalize on this, Mason and his students are now in the preliminary stages of designing a new app that will focus on the Battle of Vimy. Working with a network of teachers and students from across Canada, the goal is to populate on a similar type of app the 3,200 Canadian soldiers that were killed at Vimy and put this into the database. The database that they created is the largest database for Great War and Second World War anywhere. Harnessing this network of students and teachers, the app will be completed, much like the Juno Beach app, whereby all aspects will be designed and programmed by students. This is, as it should be, the authentic learning process in which we want our students to grow and learn. And Lisa, we had a second. Do I do that from here? Sorry, should I? Okay, no, that's fine. There it is. Okay, and I can just use this mouse to scroll down? Okay, thanks. That was easy. So this is kind of the culmination of where some of the work goes. This is on, this is at Juno Beach. This is oceanfront property that's been purchased by the Juno Beach Center. Each post represents a soldier with a QR code on it. You simply come along with your cell phone. You can actually QR each one of the soldiers that's there, and up will pop the biography of the soldier. To date, this site gets, where they've created this exhibit, gets about 1,200 visitors from people around the world each day. It's authentic process for students. So why nominate Mason? To adopt a teaching stance built upon new learning for both teacher and student is, I believe, quite rare. To commit oneself to unknown outcomes as part of a daily learning stance for both teacher and student is, I believe, quite rare. To spend hundreds and hundreds of hours with students to ensure completion of a project with a firm date, 6 June 1944, 6 June 2014, takes dedication and considerable risk, as private organizations such as the Juno Beach Center have a considerable amount invested in such a project. And they depended upon Mason and the students to make sure that the work was completed. The end game is student learning. In early June, 4 students from SFDCI were invited to be guests of the French government and participated in the commemoration of the Normandy invasion. While there, they were able to rub shoulders with dignitaries that included our Prime Minister, Prince Charles, Obama, the Queen, the French Prime Minister. All of this testimony to the students' work and excellence and Mason's work and excellence. The students were able to show dignitaries how to use the app and be authentic contributors to a chapter in Canada's history and do it through a digital lens. And this is, I believe, more than enough reason to nominate Mason for an Innovation Award.
Along with the award that they've each received tonight, the schools have been given $500 through a budget code, and that $500 is for these individuals to use for professional development or an extension of their learning, or for resources for their classrooms and whatever they're involved in their schools. So I'm sure you will find that a useful bit of money to put to use, and Again, congratulations to all our award winners, and we're looking forward to our next group of award winners for next September. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Trustee Karkner, and your team. You want to just identify who sat with you and
Trustee McMillan, Trustee McAllister, and yourself, Chair, and
Lisa helped.
Lisa Workman was with us as well.
Good.
I believe that was it.
Good. So I want to thank you and your team for delivering another great selection of innovators in our board. This was the reason that we chose to create the award, and certainly want to thank you for all the hard work and effort, and everybody else that participated, all the people that were nominated, and people who took time to nominate. Thank you. Just as a note, I will be asking for a recess after the next presentations, so if people want to get some last minute pictures, and if you're really not that thrilled to sit through school performance audit process review, communication relations management update, you can leave.
Not the senior stuff.
So next, I'd like to, we're hoping that you go. Next, I'd like to invite Superintendent Coombs to present the awards for the Ted Kennedy Legacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again this time of year to make these presentations. A little over 10 years ago, it was Ted Kennedy who really made the Terry Fox run a big deal in the Upper Canada District School Board. It was his vision, his passion for this that really got the ball rolling. And the Upper Canada District School Board has taken it and run with it, literally. There's probably nobody in this room tonight that hasn't personally been affected by cancer, whether it's a family member or whether it's a good friend. We've all been touched. But there's some good news. And I was just reading the other day that the cancer that killed Terry Fox is now 80% curable. And every day we're hearing exciting things from researchers, from scientists, and from all over the world that this scourge is being brought to bear. And you know, it's not that long ago that I remember running with Ted along many dirty roads or country roads in Upper Canada. But it really is important to me to be able to be here tonight and recognize these two schools. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the board in general has been increasing its givings over the years. In fact, this past year, 2013, the Upper Canada School Board raised over $93,000 for the Terry Fox Foundation. That's $20,000 over the previous year. And it's really remarkable that in the time we've started doing this, the Upper Canada District School Board has raised a little over $1 million for the Terry Fox Foundation. You're all to be congratulated for that. It's now my pleasure to receive on behalf of Charlaine District High School. Unfortunately, the last minute, the principal could not be here tonight. But Charlaine District High School has won the secondary Ted Kennedy Award 3 years in a row. And they've done it because it's not just a school event, it's a community event. And the staff take it very personally. In fact, the two staff members, including the principal, shaved their heads this year to raise money from the students. And one teacher shaved a beard which he had had for over 20 years. So they really take a personal interest in that. I'm very pleased to say that Charlaine again is the 2013 and perhaps 2014. We'll see when the next award comes out. But tonight here we do have South Crosby, and this is South Crosby's second year that they have won the award. Just to give you an idea of where South Crosby has come, last year they raised just a little over $16 per student. This year they raised over $32 per student. They did that in one leap. Yeah. I'd like to now ask for South Crosby principal Monique Antoine Hartley and her You have some colleagues with you today to come on forward and receive this award.
This is Vincent Lecomte and Nick Holder. This is the Mayor of South Crosby and the Deputy Mayor of South Crosby. I will. And actually, I'm going to let Vincent say the first.
Thank you. It is an honor to receive this award today. All the staff and teachers at South Crosby have a dream to make a world that's cancer-free. Thank you.
The Ted Kennedy Legacy Award is a big honor for us, given that it's named after a man who had the same dreams and the same passion as Terry Fox did to rid this world of that insidious disease. So it's a great honor for us to attempt to make sure that the kids, this generation that are coming up, will someday be able to say, cancer? No, we killed that a long time ago. So that's our hope and our dream, that someday we can say that, they can say that. I will add that we all took pies in the face, every staff member.
I think they're waiting for the recess.
It looks pretty comfortable. You're welcome to stay.
All right, so you don't leave quite yet. We're just going to do the official to get recess. Could I have a motion to recess, please? Trustee McMillan and Trustee Swan, and we'll make it back here at 25-2, please. So let's vote on it. All in favor? All right, that carries. Good. Thanks, everybody.
Learning. Reading messages. Reading books. Playing outside and playing inside. Having friends. Enjoying. Grade 1. Next, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6, and high school. Playing in the big kid yard. Yay! I was playing there. We were playing there. Yeah. On Monday, I found a toad, and I named him Bob.
Each of our lives are powerful because our choices matter, and we are ultimately the ones who determine who we become and how we make ourselves and make a positive difference in the world. So after this, I hope we all live different, and let's go.
I should do this more often. Stop the talking. Put your words in a coffin. Dead silence. Music to my ears. 8 hours spent mopping.
My name is Jamie, and I am a road team leader for Live Different.
You laugh and poke. I'm shrugging though. I'm under pressure. Will it get better? Maybe I should write a letter.
So Live Different is this amazing nonprofit organization that does motivational presentations across Canada for thousands and thousands of students every single year. And it's really cool. We go into the schools with an amazing message of just hope, and we tell students that their life has incredible value and that they can do something meaningful. And what we really want to get across really is just that students actually have an incredible amount of potential to do amazing things in their community and around the world. So today we had an amazing presentation for 530 students. We had a whole bunch of videos, some really cool personal stories, and we had a band play right here behind us. And from what I know, the students really loved it. It was an amazing an amazing experience for everybody. Here at Live Different, we hope that everybody gets some sort of positive message out of it, whether it's they realize for the first time that their life actually has value and they can do amazing things, or even if it just makes their day just for today. And we really hope that they smile leaving this gym.
So I'm Devin Byers. I go to North Dundas, and I'm the Student Council Prime Minister this year. We had them here today to explain that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes a little bit to make a big difference in the school. You don't have to do a big thing. You know, you see one person sitting alone at lunch, go sit with them, and you could change their life. Some people can put on a smile, and you don't know their story behind what it is. Like sometimes they could be forcing that smile, and they're actually having like a lot of problems at home, and it's not easy to do, but a lot of people make it look easy. The band by far was my favorite, but watching our teacher do the animal aerobics there, that was pretty funny. But it doesn't take a big action to make such a big change in someone's life. It could just be simple and say hello, and you never know, you could save their life too.
My guest will say it's so nice to meet ya. Creeping crawly creatures are now the main feature. You must be inebriated if you think that I will waste it. Look at this monster we've created, Frankenstein reincarnated. Oh yes, the beast is back alive and kicking. A word to the wise and the warning to the wicked, like they could have it all this time, but we both know I'm gonna get mine, they can have it all time, but we both know I'm gonna get mine, they can have it all this time. It makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. That don't kill me, can only make me stronger. I need you to hurry up now, cause I can't wait much longer. I know I got to be right now, cause I can't get much stronger. Man, I've been waiting all night now, that's how long I've been on ya.
I'm Maddie Morris, and I go to Rideau District High School. I started in grade 4, I think, playing Wildcats, and then I played Wildcats until grade 8, and then grade 8 is when I started to really enjoy basketball, and I thought I'd go competitive. And during the summer I went to the RMC basketball camp, which was really tough for me, but it also made me realize how much I love basketball and how much I wanted to do it. And then in grade 9 I came to Rideau, and I started playing senior right away, and I was kind of intimidated at first, but I mean, I had 2 cousins on the team and a good friend, so that was helpful, and then I've played ever since. This year we just, because there's 8 of us, we mesh super well. Like, we're all very close. We hang out at school. We work well. Like, we can read each other really well on the court as well as like off the court.
I've been waiting all night now, that's how long I've been on ya.
Being a student athlete, I mean, it's hard to balance the schoolwork as well as playing sports, but I find that the teachers are so welcoming for me to go in and ask them questions if I need help with anything. They're always willing to help, and they're very understanding of, like, I'm playing basketball this weekend, and they're like, okay, well, just get in the assignment when you can, but like make sure it's done, kind of thing, which is really helpful. Obviously, I've realized that I have to time manage a lot, and next year I'm hoping to go play basketball at the university level. I'm just not too sure where yet.
Okay, so my name is Christiane Wall. I'm a music teacher, and I work at Bankley Hill Collegiate.
On solid fuel wires, turn the key and light the fire. We're leaving Earth today. This rocket's burning bright, will soon be out of sight and orbiting.
Today we're celebrating Music Monday. It's the 10th anniversary of the Music Monday celebration, and the whole school board is celebrating Music Monday by bringing students together and singing the official Music Monday song together. We have 10 schools here, including our own BCI, and we have about 417 additional students in the building today. Well, it started out really, really small. It was just myself and a teacher, Robert Boileau, that works at PCPS just up the road from here. And we wanted to get together and have a celebration. So we started really, really small. At the beginning, we were expecting about 200 students, and we got an overwhelming response. And the school board was able to get behind us and support us, and they made this day happen. So like I said, we've got over 400 students here today. We're really excited. So we've got several workshops going on today. We have a master's drummers class going on. We have a boomwhacker workshop for our elementary students. We also have ORF workshops, guitar workshops, and we have 3 retired music teachers coming in to clinic concert band arrangement. So they're all working on the official Music Monday song so that we can perform that this afternoon. There's a live stream today at, I believe it's 11:50, featuring Chris Hadfield, the astronaut. And of course, this song was co-written between Chris Hadfield and members of the Bare Naked Ladies. So we'll be singing along with everybody across Canada today at 11:50. It's really important because music, I feel, relates to so many other courses and subjects. Music isn't just about the arts. Music is about science. It's about construction technology. It's about instrument building. It's about math, as many music teachers know from teaching music theory. I think in supporting the arts, we are also looking at new creative ways to teach other subjects as well. Creative thinking is really, really important in our society today, and I think it's really important in our workplace. We need to look for creative solutions for all kinds of things, and supporting the arts helps that.
From the International Space Station, you know why I wanna get back soon. All black and white just fades to gray, where the sun rises 16 times a day. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. The love is too high, bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, bring me down, can't none bring me down. The love is too high, bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. The love is too high to bring me down. Can't none bring me down. I said, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Hey, hey, hey. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Hey, hey. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Just check to make sure that we still have we just have one person online, right? Trustee Garrow, are you still there? All right, so next on our agenda is an overview of the school performance audit process.
As the trustees know, and you've been part of this, you've been observing, thank you, presentations made here by principals upon review of the senior staff. We have some changes, and I've asked Terry to come forward tonight and with support by Patty to tell us about some of the changes so that you can be ready for those changes when you see the first audits coming to the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, David. In the summer, David asked the team to examine the school audits, a team of Patty White and Frank Hummel from Student Success and Sarah Crawford from Quality and Terry Davies from Communication, and we tapped a number of principals across our school district in re-examining the audits. So there's been a few changes to reflect the new leadership structure in Upper Canada. All schools have now been placed into a 4-year cycle, which will be published. So it'll be set up that way, and we have enough that have been audited last year and the year before. And again, we have a pretty equal 4-year cycle that's representative of the different families of schools also. New this year, principals nominate a principal peer to be part of the audit process. So that principal peer, perhaps it's a mentor, perhaps it's their CAP, comes to the pre-audit meeting where they examine the school data and how the school has put in place policies and procedures. And the principal peer also is part of the walkthrough and audit interview day and part of the reflection when the audit report is being written. New this year also is that there's been a number of audit champions identified. Those are people that will be writing the reports and bringing them through the process. And I'm one of the audit champions. The superintendents are part of the audit champions, and Frank Hummel from the Principal of Student Success is the audit champion. New this year, embedded in the audit process, is a look at the dead files or unrequested OSRs. So that's examined at the pre-observation meeting or the pre-audit meeting. Also, the student safety, the wellness charter with OSED and student safety is examined as part of each audit. And the 11 top high-risk priorities for policies as identified by the board's audit committee. And they're embedded in the audit itself. New also is a more laid out and prescriptive process for applying to be a high performance school. So after the audit process is finished and the schools have presented to board, the audit committee would either give next steps, or one of the next steps may be to ask the school to apply for a high performance. You'll see in the documents that you have, there's a set of rubrics that have been developed by a team that principals can go through. It's sort of like a self-assessment checklist, and to see if they feel if that lines up in all 5 areas, that they would invite the audit team back to have a conversation about high performance status. And that high performance status would hold for the duration until the next audit. There's been a couple of pre-observation meetings where we've piloted this process, and I think having the policies embedded and the principal peer has proven really valuable already, where there's been rich conversations about best practices in the schools supporting the policies and procedures, where the OSR files are, where they're locked, where special designated areas to view the OSRs. Those are some examples that have come to light already in the 2 pre-observation meetings that have gone on with the principal peer. And again, I think that's going to spread some best practice throughout our school district. That's sort of an overview of things that are new in the audit process.
Okay, comments, questions, trustees? Trustee Carpenter?
Through you, Chair, Just a question about the principal peer. Is this in any way an evaluation of the work of the other principal?
Director Thomas?
No, but it would be for the principal and the reflections on the performance would sit with who they've nominated. Let's say Terry and I were co-principals, and Terry, would you be on my committee to support me through this process? And then would move through the person saying, well, I think that's pretty good, and Terry could bounce things off that, knowing that that person's going to support them through it and help them in the process. What we heard, the feedback from the group was that it felt a bit lonely to go through the process, so you identify a person who's going to walk with you through it. And we see this as co-learning as well, so that the person's been identified. The first example may be, we've already had the meeting, but Shelley at Arkin, she identified Carol Dufour, who's the cap in the Rito family, Principal Chimo, to be her mentor, coach throughout the process. And so she will go there, sit at meetings, attend, and listen and they'll talk about this throughout. And then her sign-off would be simply there as that she was helping in the process as they go through. It's more of a mentoring, a coaching role, and a learning role as you go through. And the early signs is that I think the principals and OPC really appreciated that they, especially if you're single-site school without a vice principal, that you have a person going through the journey with you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? So the role of the CAPs in this?
The role of the CAP is to be coach, assistant, to help. If they're identified by the principal as their sort of teammate through the process, they do that. As the CAP themselves, what they would do is ensuring the person's ready, helping them turn over whatever rocks they have to turn over to get ready to, if they themselves have been through before or not been through before, to assist and support the person through it. That's their role. Not an evaluator role, but as a coaching role, support and mentor. I'm not sure what that was.
So, just whoever's online, can they mute their call? I'm getting a lot of noise coming back.
I think they're alive though.
I didn't hear that.
Should have known it was you, Trustee Buckland. Trustee Buckland, can you just mute your call?
Can I do what?
I just need you to mute your call because there's a lot of noise coming through.
Okay.
All right. The process has a component where can I just borrow this? The students, still getting feedback, where a principal would select students. Is there any guidance or any attempt to ensure that we are picking students that meet sort of a criteria is probably not a good word, but so that it allows comparison, or is comparison not the point between schools?
First, I'd like to draw a fill into this with your permission, and Terry will have a comment. That's the piece that we're really looking at right now, is to, as we become more data conscious and more conscious of the student body, I think that the coaching would be done from both the champion would create a process that there would be a cross-section of students, and the number, and the larger the school, the larger the sample. And I think when you have a smaller school, to ensure that the sample that you pick, that there is the ability to be an this is a piece that we're doing training on and working on, and all staff.
We're gonna have to, whoever's generating the noise online, we're gonna, just let me finish. We're gonna mute you from this end, and just email myself or Lisa if you want to come into the conversation.
Okay. Is that me?
All right. So you can just do that, right? Mute them.
I'm trying, but it's not working.
Okay. Thank you.
Should I answer your question, right? The sample size and the diversity that you'd be looking for is that this might not be a hand-picked group that would just come and say, we love the school. And that's a piece that we're working on, and we're working on strategies to assist our team in identifying the people that you're in. If I may, through you, Chair, Terry or Phil, would you like to comment on perhaps the training we're looking at that part?
I think a part of it is in the pre-audit meeting, talking about having a cross-section of students, some students represent with special needs and some students who have been through restorative justice practice and other students that are in different cross-sections. And I know we've been working on some student voice projects where students look at their Tell Them For Me survey data, and that's been our practice too, is a rich cross-section in our 7 to 12 schools between 7 to 12 students and students from different factions, not just perhaps the student council.
Through you, Chair, yeah, adding to Terry's statement, we're very excited about the new approach being taken specifically with Tell Them For Me. In previous years, it's tended to be perspective more from the staff viewing of the data, and what we're finding now is a lot of value bringing the student voice into the equation by actually asking the students, how do you feel about the results from Tell Them For Me, and getting their feedback and having that initiate staff action in the school from a student perspective. I think it's a very powerful concept that we're going to continue to work on.
Trustee McCray?
Through you, Chair. When we all attended or were involved in the conference in Kingston, there was a real focus on the 15% body of our students who are challenged with getting across that line. And one of the things I was really happy to see in this presentation under school performance audit, the second item there, is it mentions the DEAD file and the importance of putting faces and names to the data and speak to your plans to address the concerns and the benefits to these students. Are there other examples, maybe I haven't seen them, but are there other examples in this format where we are really zeroing in on this 15% of the students to ensure that they get across the line? Because that seemed to be the focus of that conference. And I wondered, how will these documents help to assist us and support us in ensuring that happens? I see that as one example, so I was glad to see it. Are there others in the documents? Other ways?
Go ahead, George.
I'll kick this. First of all, this is one portion that you'd be looking for, and that would recognize checking out there would be a significant discussion on what would happen with that particular file. When I do the audit, I will stop and say, I would like you to pull all of the Ontario student record cards and bring them in the office, and I'd like to see all unrequested OSR files. It sounds a bit rough to say the DEAD file. And the committee that came together to put that said, I think if we call it unrequested ORs, it sounds bureaucratical, and it sounds safer and nicer. And the group that came together said, let's be really straightforward. These are kids who've left the system. We don't know where they've gone. So what's going to happen is focus in the pre-meeting with the team will be, we'd like to see all of the particular secondary schools, as this is really a secondary school part of it, is to say, when you have 10 or 15 unrequested OSR, let's talk about every one of these students who've gone. And then you move the conversation over to, this is where we're coaching our team, okay, there's a series of people who might be there next. Let's talk about those. And this is the piece where we start to say, how are the IEPs being maintained? How are we connecting with the kids who are at risk, and so forth. And this would become a major focus of the pre-conversation and really directing the leadership as to how they're responding to it. And I know that Terry, this was a big part of the summer campaign. Through you, Terry may want to respond to this.
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. I think a lot of the things that are already embedded in the audits, just with our new focus on putting faces to the names through data, I think you'll see those come through. Like EQAO data, we know that if students underperform in grade 3 and grade 6, they have a low chance of performing well in the 9 and 10 and moving forward. So looking at that cohort data, not only to see, oh, is the school improving, what students are not improving between 3 and 6, and putting faces to that data to put in interventions. And also embedded, there's 16 by 16 who is up to have 16 credits by the time they're 16 years old, and that's a huge indicator of success, or a huge alarm bell if someone doesn't. So that's embedded in the audit also. And I think it's just a system shift on how we look at some of the data that we had in the past anyways.
Thank you. Trustee McAllister?
You may have mentioned this, Terry, but could you tell me if the parents or school councils are involved in the audit?
Through your chair? Yes, there are interviews with parents, school council, and community members are part of the audit process.
Thank you.
Also, some schools choose to use parent survey data in their in telling their story also.
Any other comments? Trustee Swan?
Through you, Chair. Are we looking at with the dead files exit interviews as well?
Director?
We're looking at that as not a part of the audit process, but actually as part of service excellence. Sarah's with it, she's not talking on this file right now, but what we're looking at is creating a process for our schools through guidance and through the principal's office to phone and talk to the very people that we have it here. And we're looking at that through service excellence. We have not really put it in here because we want to, actually, we'd like to call before the person becomes a dead file to say, after 7 or 5 days of absence, that you call to say, where are you? And then if they've gone, if they've left, then we would do an exit survey. We're actually planning to try and do exit surveys even when people have been successful. And say, look, we've done better, et cetera. So that's a piece that we're looking for going through service excellence.
Trustee McDonald?
I wanted to just pick up on 2 points. One is the mentor piece, and the other one is the dead files. Just the director or someone alluded to it. There's legislation now that if a student is absent for a period of time, they automatically come off the register, and we lose that funding and so on and so on. So I would think that there's an automatic, at 15 days consecutive, 15 classes, we got to do some due diligence to make sure that we have those answers. We shouldn't be waiting for a cycle of school audits to be able to pull up OSRs that haven't been requested. And we should have a reporting mechanism on those ones that do drop off in the 15 days. So in essence, we'll never have the need to go after those student records because we already have that information. We're going to know where those students are, and that needs to be built in as opposed to an audit functionality. And that's my own personal view, because it means we're missing an opportunity with the student, but we're missing the revenue associated to that student when we still have to teach the rest of the class. The other point was around the principal mentor. How was it determined that we would have this second principal involved in the process? What feedback or what information data did we have that supported that opportunity?
Director?
Through you, Chair. I meet, trust me, I know I meet monthly with OPC, the executive, and I get feedback on different things. And it wasn't, it actually didn't come as a negative, but some of the people had a sort of fear of the process, not necessarily facing the trustees or strategic council with the presentation, but it was sort of, having been through this before, it's what's involved, and they get to the pre-audit, and they have all kinds of questions, and we sort of took a look to sort of take the pressure off this, not to create a situation where the person is worried about the performance, but we saw a need, particularly in the single principal schools, that a person to sort of that they would identify to support them through the process. And what we're taking a look at this now to say, does it build capacity? Are they learning more effectively? And we think this whole the coaching model will be more effective, but it seemed to be that's where it really came from.
Okay, any other comments? I'd just like to ask another question. The high performance status, what is that? Is that where we go in and we take back some of the money because they obviously don't need it, they're doing such a great job, or
That's exactly.
take away staff? Or? No, what does that mean? Like, what's that entail?
We tried to, through you, Chair, I'll respond, and then Terry may want to join in. What you see in one of your packages as you go through, you'll dig out something that looks like this. It's a extensive rubric that's been through first it was built and organized around 15 years ago. Had a look at it 10 years ago, and Terry, the summer writing team that he identified earlier, that was very involved in Look Force. And what we're saying to a school that is firing on all cylinders, that is really making the grade, to recognize, to have a formal recognition to say that this school is at a very, very high level, and it should be celebrated. That it's high performance with students, it has high performance issues with staff, it's well respected in the community, and to stop and celebrate what they're doing. And this particular part would be a culminating activity that they would take this rubric and go back and through a comprehensive self-examination and take a look and say, I think we qualify, we hit all the marks, and a score of 16 out of 20 or higher is the only way to go. And then they would fill it out and call the audit committee back and say, we've taken a look at ourselves in the mirror, we've reflected, are we performing at such a level that for recognition as you go through? And this is what if you were to take it, I hope you do take a look at this, and you take at the awareness, authentic, aligned, and attuned level. If you have a school in your community that is level 4 in all of those categories, it probably is a school that people are beating a path down to get to. Over the years, we've recognized Merrickville, we've recognized Thousand Islands Elementary, South Crosby. Those are that have really delivered at a very high level as you go through. And again, it's just for the staff and the students and the community to be proud about their school.
Okay. Anything else? So, trustees, part of the sorry, you go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to first of all show my alignment with what Trustee McDonald said, because I absolutely 100% agree. I think you saw in my response to Trustee Swan. If we get to the audit and we're finding out kids are away at that time, we've missed the boat. In fact, the dead files, it'd be really nice to walk into school and find 0, David, because that we're doing as Sarah's designed in her service excellence. That what we have is we do have things at TR Leger, David, as you're familiar with it. After 14 absences, an automatic phone call. We're trying to examine in all of our high schools that what is the right time to intervene? Is it 3 absences from a court? Should the teacher be making it? Should guidance? Should the principal be making it? And this is going to be a part of moving to a higher level practice of saying, let's not wait till it's a dead file. Let's move into this to talk about the kids who are marginal risk. And it goes back to something that I think Trustee McRae picked up on in our leadership, is that let's reverse this. We know we can get the 90%, but we really have to look at the 5 to 15% who, with all of our very best intentions, are calcitrant with some of our best efforts, and we have to put that in, David, in a systematic way. And I know that I'm not trying to center Sarah. It's not that she knows this is incredibly important work, but to create the checks and the flags that go off automatic, that a phone call has to be made today. It's the 4th absence in a row from this program. And that's what we're working with right now. And I agree with you, David, and I certainly with Trustee Swan. The audit thing, we should ask the question about the dead files, but we also should have processes in place long before it gets to an audit that we're using those. Very effective schools, effective guidance departments and principals are already doing it. It's got to become practice throughout the board. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, I just wanted to just contextualize why you wanted to say something else.
Yeah, one last piece. I'd like to show.
I'm going to get the last word in here.
Yeah, you will get the last word. I just don't want this to be lost, because the audit committee, sometimes, you know how I feel about auditors, probably just slightly better than you do, Chair. I say that thoughtfully and respectfully. We have, in the director's office, taken the audit process very seriously in the high-risk audit pieces. And what we have done, if you're taking a look in the process, we have put in here, because what we were talking about at one point, we'll continue to, is identify and go in and in a blind manner, is say, we're taking it right through right now if a child didn't show up at school. But what we've decided to do instead, in the pre-audit positioning, is talk about the conditions of the 11 policies that we've ranked as very high, and those are going to become a discussion in the pre-audit format. And we think that that will be part of it. And when they get this form that you see, Trustee McDonald and the audit committee, then that will say, well, gee, I'm the principal, I better take a look at 307, 125, and 100. You could very well be on the topic. And what we're trying to do is highlight things that one is, as the audit committee said, some of them are safety related, and some of the are the reputation management of the board. And so that again is the learning that we've applied to the process. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I think it's made our process better. Thank you. That's my last words.
Okay. Trustees, I just wanted to contextualize why this item was on, and there's going to be a further item. I don't need this right now, Lisa. As when we were doing the school success plan reports, we had frequent references to the audit, so we've asked just to have that as background, plus there were some changes that were coming as a result of David's structural changes he instituted. We also are going to be receiving a report on themes and trends, I guess the word that we're going to use, trends, that were discovered in the last round of audits, sort of help us understand what's going on in our schools so that we can ask even more thoughtful questions when we have the schools in front of us, which will start at the end of October. So just wanted to give you that added detail. All right, thank you very much for presenting that. Appreciate that. Next, I'm going to invite Mr. Dawes, new superintendent. And is Terry joining you? I have that here. I don't know whether she's going to join you or...
For moral support at this moment.
Yeah, why don't you come up and...
proceed. How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. So trustees will recall last June was the approval of the budget, and since that time there's been an interest expressed by trustees to have this typical regular reporting back of the respective components of the budget, so that trustees can have a deeper understanding of the progress of those budget items, and a deeper understanding also of the return on investment that is representative of the work that's being done in each of those respective areas. So I'm pleased tonight to have the opportunity to present on behalf of the Communications and Relationship Management Department. And before I begin, I will take a moment to acknowledge and thank the work of that group, our Communications and Relationship Manager, Terry Davies, and our 4 communications officers, Mark Calder, Derek Castleman, Cindy Peters, and Allison Grange, who we're looking forward to having return next week. So with that, I'll get started. So just a reminder in the report that the CRM budget, as we see it, we're making an effort to align our work with the work of the trustees through the Accountability Framework Committee, and it's important work. The CRM department, we feel, works in alignment best with the UCPSB Communication Critical Success Factor Statement, which reads, to facilitate parent involvement, student achievement, and public confidence, communication must be clear, purposeful, effective, targeted, and branded. So that's always in the back of our mind with the work that we do in the CRM department. But we also do that through the filter of key messages that we want to continue to demonstrate to our parents and public and students. That is, we are a high performance board, we are a fiscally responsible board, and we are a caring board where all means all. So that really drives the day-to-day work that we do in the department. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this graph because this was just taken from last June's budget item that was already approved by the board, but just a reminder of how the CRM budget breaks down into its respective components. This is a new table that shows the expenditures to date based upon the previous pie chart broken down by those components of the CRM budget. There's not a lot of information you can glean from this table because of the early cycle that we're in the school year. So again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this one. Suffice to say, and we've mentioned in the report, we feel entirely comfortable and satisfied that we're on track to maintain our budgetary targets for this year. So I did want to take the bulk of the report and tonight to talk a bit more about operating context and return on investment. Our operating context, I think, is one that is worth mentioning due to the changing structure, the change in structure of the board itself through the organization of the CAPS and the new 10 families of schools. We see an opportunity in CRM department, like the rest of the board, to get a deeper understanding and response to the ongoing needs of the system as it relates to those organizational structures of schools. So that is an operating context that we're continuing to look at, and we do see an opportunity for greater creativity, flexibility, diversity, and optimism in our schools as supported by an effective CRM function. But I also wanted to take an opportunity to deliver to you these two components that we feel as a team really represent the theory of action that drives the work that the CRM department is working under. That is, innovative and effective communication and relationship management strategies equate to an informed and knowledgeable school system, which in turn equates to student success. We can't say that there's a direct correlation between communication and student success, so we're working on this theory of thought that, again, a strong relationship management strategy means a knowledgeable school system. In addition to that, innovative and effective communication, relationship management, branding, and marketing strategies equate to an informed and knowledgeable public, which in turn equates to increases in the market share of students attending UCDSB schools. We're in a very competitive environment. We're aware of that, and we want to do what we can to ensure that we're receiving the lion's share of students in our respective communities. So it's under that framework that we've presented in the report a number of return on investment indicators, starting with perhaps one of the most important ones as identified through the key results indicators of the trustees' accountability framework, kindergarten participation rate. What you're seeing in the report is a slightly different view that shows our system participation rate. That is the percentage of junior and kindergarten students, the number of junior kindergarten students as a percentage of the total age 4 and 5 population to that resident area. So we have indication here of JKSK participation by the board as a whole, which uniquely is the same this year as last year at 45.8% for the board as a whole. But what we've also been able to do in this report is break that down by the respective 10 families of schools. And you can see from this graph that 5 of the 10 school families have seen an increase in JKSK participation this year compared to last. 4 of the 10 have seen a decrease, and 1 family school has remained the same. And again, the board as a whole has remained the same at 45.8%. So you can draw a number of conclusions, of course, from this graph. There are varying participation rates depending on the region that we're talking about, and that certainly is reflective of the different populations that our communities serve. We're looking at this information quite optimistically as a means to develop further strategies and further approaches in the CRM department. This is really just a starting point. We would like to develop participation rates that are even more timely and specific to the localized conditions that we're talking about. So we see an opportunity moving into the future to really get localized on participation rate, have a deeper understanding of who our clients are, and respond accordingly. Another key item in the report under section 5.2 is kindergarten registrations. As an ongoing practice, the CRM department surveys the parents of kindergarten-aged children so that we can get a deeper understanding of the extent to which we think our marketing strategies are working. I wanted to show in this report this one table that's in response to a specific question on the survey, which reads, what, if any, of the following prompted you to register your child with the Upper Canada District School Board? And what I think this table illustrates is that parental response to online forms of communication and marketing are increasing in comparison to traditional approaches. And that substantiates the direction that we're trying to take in the CRM department. Some information under section 5.3 as it relates to social media. A reminder to trustees that the CRM department last year provided extensive training to school office staff in social media, and as you can see from this information, it appears to be paying dividends by virtue of the number of people accessing school Facebook sites and Twitter accounts. That number, the 88.9% increase in school Facebook, I think is a very keen indicator of and demonstration of the results of the work that were done last year in assisting schools on social media. I also wanted to make a point with in the report, you don't see it on this slide, but in the report there's a note under the table that mentions we're not suggesting in CRM that social media is intended to replace other valuable means of communications. We're seeing this as a support to the communication plans that are being developed in our schools. We're also very proud on the video and live streaming work that has been done in the department, and we'll have an opportunity at the end of my presentation to see firsthand the product that's been coming out of our schools and through the CRM department that we think is having an impact across the system. Each high school has been provided video equipment to promote their ability to upload videos to their school YouTube accounts, and no fewer than 50 UCDSB YouTube videos posted in 2013-14 had 104,437 views with an estimated 144,101 minutes watched. That's quite an extensive number, and we feel good about that. Also wanted to take a moment in the report to mention the results of the Net Promoter Score. This, of course, is a key results indicator that's been identified by the trustees through the Accountability Framework Committee. 2 years now of the Net Promoter Score, with last year an indication in the report that, again, the CRM department strategies seem to be paying dividends. And I quote in the report, it reads, "It can be argued that implementing a Facebook page, creating a group of influential people, and then using these individuals to communicate to the general public and restructuring the communications department have had a positive effect on the NPS rating." It would be remiss of me not to take an opportunity here to mention service excellence, and this is a bit of a new area. With the restructuring that's happened this year, service excellence falls under the Accountability and Alignment Division, and we're trying to set up a deeper alignment, of course, with CRM department functions as well. So I think we're in a really, really good place with the work that Sarah has done to move service excellence to the next level. But based on the work that's happened last year and years previous, we know that 96% of permanent staff have now completed the UCDSB customer service course, and we want to take advantage of that in the year and years to come. So with our review of return on investment, of course, comes an opportunity to also consider opportunities and challenges. We've identified a few in the report. One of them is, again, alignment with school improvement plans. We don't want to forget in CRM the work that's happening in our schools through school improvement. We want to be able to understand what the communication strategies in those schools are, and we're taking a definitive effort in the department to continually review and understand the information from those plans. A recent review of our schools' improvement plans indicated no fewer than 43% of schools identified improved communication with parents and community as one of their 3 top school success plan goals for this year. So we feel good about that and feel that we're on the right track, but again, we'll continue to monitor those school improvement plans as we proceed. School and UCDSB main page website maintenance. We do understand and recognize in the department that this is an area that needs some support. We've given it our best effort in last year to assist schools in keeping their websites up to speed, and a recent review by the department indicated we feel that as many as 33 schools have seen some improvements over the past year. But again, this is an area that we want to be able to focus on with a recognition and alignment of upgrades in overall system requirements and availability systems through the IT department. International branding. Clear opportunity here with the expansion of our international ed program for us to explore international markets and see where that could take us. I'm very excited about that, but again, we haven't really started deeply on that. It's an area we'd like to take a look at and focus on. Staff development and crisis management. Again, early in the year, we know this is an area that we need to focus on, and right now we're just in our earliest stages of development in crisis management. We know that we need to get some professional development support in that respect, and we're just in the process now of getting a short list together where we can get some third-party help. So with that, I wanted to take an opportunity, Lisa's going to cue this up. We just wanted to show you a brief video that is going to demonstrate to you, give you a sample of some of the work that's happened in the last year as it relates to video production, live streaming, and some Facebook work in our schools that we think is exemplary, with some indications back of how people are responding to what they're seeing in our schools through this work. So if you don't mind, Lisa, maybe we could just cue that up. Thank you.
Dream so big and loud, I jumped so high, I touched the clouds. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. I stretched my hands out to the sky, we danced with monsters through the night. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. I'm never gonna look back, whoa, I'm never gonna give it up. No, please don't wake me now. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, go, bring me down. Can't none bring me down.
Where would you go not long ago? I've been thinking out loud. What's it suddenly that don't you know? Don't do it, what you do, or what you do to me. Forever is a long, long time when you lost your way. Trying to follow your ideals, oh sorry, but your so-called life it is such a waste. Where your real life, no you don't realize what you say yes to, what you say yes to. Where would you go with life so? Could you run into, could you go and run into me? Where would you go, tied up to a lasso? Could you run into, could you go and run into me? So lonely, so pretty, such a lack of diplomacy, you can't get out. Don't you know, don't do it, what you do, you should do to me. Fire out, so fire out, such a fire out.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, just before I open up for comments and discussion, This is part of last budget cycle. We agreed to the director's proposed cycle of the various departments reporting to us throughout the year. That way, trying to make budget part of our ongoing work and not something that we tried to do in the last 6 weeks prior to the end of June. So remember that as you ask your questions. That's where we're supposed to be going with this. It should be around budget and resource allocation and that kind of thing. And just for those that are watching and wondering, well, why would you ask for a budget report when they've only had less than a month to spend the money? This is why. Somebody had to go first, and communication are it. Okay, so any comments? Trustee Swan.
That's for you, Chair. I noticed a substantial amount, actually, the second highest next to salaries is on advertising. And I'm just wondering, when we look at the information that was presented to us, word of mouth was one of the biggest forms of advertising. And then next it seemed like web-based advertising, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, items such as that. And is there a way, because the advertising is such a significant component of this budget, of getting it broken down, print versus radio versus net-based advertising? Would that be a value, and would that be, I think that would be a value. I'm wondering, would that be very difficult?
Director.
First of all, we have that, and we're examining it closely now because this is really turning. It would appear that as you take a look at that particular column, that the social media and Facebook to the age group that has kindergarten kids, the 25 to 35-year-olds, that group who would be traditionally having kids enter, that they are moving into web-based social media way, and we're trying to really understand that. So we have quite an examination of the newspapers, the radio ads, and so forth. We're looking at them right now, and we can actually go drill to that level of detail, and that's what we're doing in the department to make our decision. So if you may turn over to fellow Terry to talk about your analysis, because this is a question that we're really dealing with.
Absolutely. And
go ahead. Yeah.
Trustee Swan, what you're looking at is the response from our kindergarten registration survey, which is very valuable to us because it gives us an indication whether we're hitting the mark or not. You're absolutely correct. In this report, we're not actually giving you the itemized breakdown on how the advertising budget is spent, and we could certainly get that to you. However, I echo what the director is saying, is we really are focused, and we did say this in the June report, we're seeing a transition of our advertising focus from traditional means into more web-based focus. But again, and it's important for me to emphasize this, we're doing it within the context of school improvement planning. So we want to understand what schools are needing, what they're asking for, and not completely replace one with the other, but get a balance that is reflective of what our parents and communities are asking for. And the evidence to date, as demonstrated in the report, is I think we're finding that we're hitting the right note, and we'll continue to monitor that so that we can adjust it accordingly.
Go ahead.
When this comes back the next time to us, I'm just wondering if we could see a breakdown so we can see the shift in where these budgets for advertising are going.
On that, I guess the big question is, Trustee Swan, how do word of mouth get their information? Right? Because they could be getting it all by newspapers. Really, that would be interesting to try to figure out. Any other comments? Trustee Carpenter.
On page 3, Chair, through you, you refer to the return on investment as innovative and effective communication, relationship management, branding, and marketing. I read on to equates to increase in the market share of students attending Upper Canada District School Boards. When I look at the next page and the chart as to the percentage of children that are attending our schools and the different families of schools, I am appalled that ours is only at 16% in Prescott Russell. And I'm wondering if maybe it's not the time or the place to be asking this question, but I would really like to see some kind of a plan put together to access all of those families, following on what Trustee McDonald has said in the past, that all means all, and we should have access to all students in those areas. A marketing plan to find out how we can get our market share of the students in Prescott Russell. 16% is not enough, period. And
Trustee McAllister? Maybe you want to just fill in, like you've got something coming forward in another agenda item?
Yes, would this be
Yeah,
an appropriate?
well, I think, why don't you just mention it? I think that it probably is more appropriate to discuss it in the item that, in the agenda topic that you've selected.
Okay.
Okay, but just maybe indicate what your plan, what you're wanting to propose.
I've been giving the whole concept of the capture rate some thought, and you've raised it now. And I think it's important in that we as a board have the opportunity to capture 100%. And yet, in some areas, we're falling short. And I'm wondering if it wouldn't be a good idea if it were part of every school success plan to attempt to increase their capture rate.
And so you were going to make that as a motion inside the enrollment data report, correct?
Yes, I was thinking of doing it there.
Yeah, well, why don't we stick there? I just wanted you just to introduce the facts, so.
Okay.
Does that work for you,
Sure.
Trustee Kirkner?
It's just as a follow-up, Chair.
Yep.
Looking at the feedback that we have used to get the message out there, I see that school billboards and roadside signs are a pretty good way of getting the message out there, and I do have some ideas about that, but this isn't the time or the place for that, so I'll share those with the director.
All right, thank you. Trustee McPherson?
Just to support John here, I noticed when I visit a school and I'm talking to the principal, one of the first questions I ask them is, especially during kindergarten registration, is how's your kindergarten enrollment doing? And I believe that kindergarten capture rate is probably one of the key factors in determining our success in the school community. If you don't get them in the door, then you're not likely ever going to get them. And I really think, John's net, this should be part and parcel of determining, like, I'd love to see us nail 100% in some communities. I know it's next to impossible, but it is a very key factor. It reflects the public's perception of the school. If somebody thinks there's a great place to send my kids, all the amount of media advertising and that really is not going to influence it. So I think it's a key thing, and I'm sorry to see Lanark South has slipped a wee bit. Did we take the highest and the lowest and then divide them by 2, or did we balance the, like when we reached the board average, or did we add all the percentages?
We've taken the, through you, Chair, we've taken the kindergarten enrollment for those respective years, October 31st, and taken that as a proportion of the total age 4 population.
Okay.
So it's just happened to work out as the same percentage overall on the board vote.
Trustee McDonald?
So on the operating context and return on investment slide, kindergarten registrations, some numbers have changed significantly. I mean, we're not talking huge numbers here because of the respondents, but when I look at this and I know of some strategies that we've deployed, we have 11 people respond that they registered for kindergarten as a result of newsprint ads. So 11 people responded, but in context, we placed less newspaper ads as well. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
That's correct.
So it doesn't really, there isn't really good correlation to say that 34 went to 11 because less people saw them because we had less ads potentially. Same can be said about some of the other things. I think there needs to be context. If something's changed from the baseline to generate new numbers, we need to have that understanding as well. When I look at the slide previous, participation rate, you had said you can draw a lot from that. So what do you draw from that based on the feedback that you received? What strategies are you deploying now then to adjust and move forward on the new participation rates next year?
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. I'll fully admit at this point it's more of a lagging indicator. So we're trying to draw some conclusions about how participation rate might relate to some of those other strategies that are having in the schools. But again, you're absolutely right. It's somewhat anecdotal. But we also have made the point in this that we're seeing opportunity to use participation rate perhaps in deeper ways. If we could get access to more timely information as it relates to kindergarten registrations, perhaps deeper feedback from each of the families of schools about what's concerning them about kindergarten numbers and what parents are saying about their feelings of what's offered, what's available in our schools through kindergarten programming. Perhaps getting at earlier age groups, so perhaps age 2, age 3 students, building our marketing and branding strategies to those earlier students. I'd also like to see us develop some strategies in those other transition points, so grade 7 and grade 9, certainly. I think there's some opportunities there as well. So I think you're absolutely right. It's not necessarily a perfect indicator, which is why we have a series of other indicators to look at, but it's one that we feel holds certainly some value in that respect.
So you raised an issue that I wanted to bring up. And the focus on this information has been around JK and SK participation rate. And it ties into the budget, I guess, at a marginal level. But from a strategy standpoint, you mentioned about going after the 2 and the 3-year-olds. Kindergarten, participation or advertising or promotion of kindergarten isn't a 3-month or a 6-month opportunity. It's a 4-year opportunity. We have 4 years from the time that we know of someone being born in our particular area to convince that mom and dad that we are the choice. And there's a strategy that needs to be deployed, I believe, that we are the trusted advisor in helping you from 0 to 4 as a parent, and what good educational opportunities we can help you with and provide you with from 0 to 4. And here's what we can do from 4 to 18. So I think that strategy needs to be expanded and potentially looked at, I guess, is because the money that we invest for a short period of time is very difficult to measure, and it's measured over, as you said, a lagging indicator. We're only measuring that in September, October 1st, perhaps. It leads me to, I guess, my next question off topic of that, to the international branding. I don't recall ever hearing this. I know it's something in your future opportunities and challenges, but why is that a focus?
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. Quite honestly, it's simply at idea stage at this point. We just had the discussion in the department. Maybe this would be an area that would be interesting to look at, given the board's expansion in that particular area. And given where we're going in terms of identifying marketing strategy as through global communication strategies, it might be an interesting area to look at. But I certainly didn't want to give the intention that we have a full-blown strategy at this point. It's just in its very, very earliest discussion phases.
I think branding is an important aspect, because I think we could perhaps draw some conclusions around our participation rate associated with branding. Branding would also lead into your other point, I think, about where is it? Innovative and effective communication and relationship management. I think if we brand ourselves internally, we brand ourselves externally, there's a lot to be said about Upper Canada at that point. from an international standpoint, would you, and I understand it's at a thought stage, are you thinking of working with UCLC on that international branding, or are you doing something on the side of UCLC? Because I think that's also their international education aspect would be a branding exercise to promote UCLC and for Canada.
Through you, Chair, again, in its earliest stages, that's really what I was thinking. It would make sense to have a discussion with UCLC and see if we could assist them and, create a mutually beneficial marketing branding strategy that would be beneficial to the board overall.
Director?
First of all, I think we've been talking around this table about market share for a long, long time, and you're one of the first voices, as you know, at OPSPA and CODE to talk about this. This is not an issue for the Ministry of Education. This is our issue. The Ministry of Education does not care about this issue. They feel in Eastern Ontario we have 98, and in Carroll's area, 99% participation rate. They call it public education. If you choose French, or if you choose French Catholic or English Catholic, it's all public education. And I think as we move to this, I think we're understanding we've got to be more sophisticated. I think the thing we have to do is work with our unions also, so that they're partners in this. We talked about the fact that word of mouth is so critical. I think there's nothing perhaps that will shut down a word of mouth issue than watching, and we have this sadly, teachers who teach for us and their kids bounce in the separate school uniforms, they bounce in the school and they tell all the kids, and then when they walk into the teacher's room that, well, it's good enough to pay my mother, but it's not good enough for my mother's children or father's. We have to figure those things out with accurate conversation with why our own staff is doing that. We have in this very office building here, and difficult. I had to speak to a staff member who had this. The daughter bounced in here with a uniform on, and I said, boy, that speaks very, very loud about how you value your employer, like where you put your son or daughter, etc. As you go through. And I said, I think we have to be careful about the very important messages. The next one, I think we have to really start to understand the investment in all-day kindergarten, particularly in Carroll's area and in David's area. They've had all-day kindergarten in the French Catholic Board and French Public Board for 22 years. It has become a way of life that if you're there, you choose all-day kindergarten because it was considered a community that they had to foster and support. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but right across Ontario, the French Public and French Catholic had all-day kindergarten. You may be aware of this, you may not be aware of this. We did a special study 7 years ago in Plantagenet. We introduced all-day kindergarten there to see if we could compete with market share. And it was just a single site examination, but it wasn't effective because I don't think parents saw it the way we had to. It'll be interesting how all-day kindergarten plays out and creates a more balanced playing field for all of us as we go through. And then finally, a thing that we would think about is for branding. In some of the jurisdictions and in the particular states, I haven't heard of it here in Canada, you literally have, after the birth of a child in the hospital, you'll have a school board, particularly a public school board, make a gift to the family, books, a series of things, and when you're thinking about school, we're ready for you. These things all have to become part of a comprehensive marketing strategy, and that may sound really funny, but the fact is to get them thinking, and I think David talked about this, a very birthing process. For us to march in there after the delivery of the baby and say, now read to them, it may be inappropriate. But I think we have to think about how we change the paradigm. In some of our communities that have had 20, 25 years of history. Well, when you go to school, you go to such and such school. And I think it's going to be a very important thing for us to understand. And that the Board of Trustees, through a particular motion maybe coming up later, says we'd like to see each school develop its own precise and well-organized marketing campaign in conjunction with a board-related marketing campaign. I think what we do is we're going to have people putting their efforts there, and that's okay. We have to decide how that effort is balanced off against all the many things that happen in the school. So I look forward to this. It's something we've talked about and worked hard for a long time. I also say to you, and I say this respectfully, we may not have the in-house expertise to do this. We may have to tap on the shoulder of people who really understand branding and marketing and getting at the issues of thought management, thought leadership, and the whole aspect of ensuring our thoughts are out there in the marketplace and people understand what we stand for. So I think this is going to be a very interesting time for us.
Trustee McCray.
Through you, Chair.
Who It's your birthday today.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice card. I appreciate it. Do we know, and maybe I can direct this to the director, do we know, for example, does our board know how many students are homeschooled? And the reason I ask that is because, and I've had this conversation with David, and that is, it appears that where I live in Lanark County, there are quite a number of students that are homeschooled, and I'm just wondering if there, for example, isn't a target market that we're missing as well. And when we do get calls from parents who are deciding that, are going to make that critical decision or choice, that they're going to homeschool, what are we doing to encourage them that we are the choice?
Director?
First of all, we do have a proxy measure on private school. We fill through the data that he gets from the birth. We know how many 4-year-olds were born in Lanark. So we know how many are with the separate, the French, our board, and so forth. And we would draw the assumption that they're either in private school or homeschool a number. It's a very small percentage, anywhere from less than 1% to 3% that you go through. But I will say, if you take a look at this, and it's not to put a red herring in here, the fastest growing movement in Ontario in education is self-regulated home instruction as they go through. And that's growing. If we were to have a provincial-wide strike after spending a week in BC, certainly, and going back to something I said earlier, the Ministry of Education is very proud of the participation rate in public education in Ontario. Although our brand, we would like more in Eastern Ontario, they are proud to say in some of our neighborhoods, it's literally 100% going to public education. In BC today, they cannot claim a 90% as you go through because of the raucous situation and the fact that private schools are starting all over the place and the whole aspect of independent homeschooling is on. So we look at that. We do make some assumptions about that this is probably what's happening. Do we know where they are? No. Not unless they phone the school. And we do get phone calls like, I'd like our kids to come in and take phys ed, but nothing else. And that gives a skilled principal an opportunity to say, well, let's talk about what's happening at home. And there's a variety of reasons that kids are homeschooled. Some is because it's as glamorous as we're going on a sailboat trip around the world, and kids, as you go through, some it's got to do with a perception that obviously are not in religious schools or homeschools, so they have whatever reasons. And there are a variety of situations, and some of them are tough situations too, and we don't understand why the person would choose homeschooling as you go through. But I think if we're going to examine this, and I'm looking forward to the motion and the direction that the trustees give us, I think that has to be part of the puzzle too.
Okay, anybody else hasn't said anything yet on this topic? Trustee Kirk.
I've been thinking and listening to the conversation that's been going on, and I think it's time to bring that motion forward now, not wait until later on, because it seems to be geared towards the marketing and the branding of, and it's a communications motion, not unless there's something else that is involved in the motion that I'm not familiar with, but from what he said, it seems to address what I was going to suggest, and that not only be a part of the school success plan, it'll be part of the communications department plan as well.
It doesn't really matter. It's just that's where it was set up. So we can certainly put the motion on the floor if you wish. I don't think there's any compelling reason. I mean, it's germane in that it's probably going to have an impact on their budget, on communications budget, and their resource allocation. So, Lisa, can you pull up that motion for us, please? Alright, the motion that John has supplied is whereas the Upper Canada District School Board has a mandate and the capability to capture all students, and whereas the Upper Canada District School Board provides excellent programming in all schools, be it resolved that the Director devise a strategy for increasing the capture rate for each school, and that this goal will be included in all school success plans. There's no timeline on it that we need. We need a timeline. But maybe you, Director, can give us a sense of.
First of all, I think it's a really good motion. It tells us what to do. The missing timeline, I think we should put something there to create a sense of urgency. We're all working hard. There's no one here that's not working hard. But I think when you say we want the plan to come back, because obviously in January, February is a really important time when we start to shape what the plan's going to look like. We've already started to talk about it. This will give us a sense that we're bringing back a draft for the trustees to take a real run at, and as you go through. I need the time, because quite frankly, with this motion, the way it is, I'll be honest, we do not have in-house talent. We have some really bright people on schooling and so forth, but this will be an area where we're going to have to get someone who knows the business of getting a message out there, clearly articulating, mentioned, branded the right way. And then the other things, I think we have to come back, and Trustee McDonald said it, this is starting almost at birth stuff, and we've never done that. In fact, we sort of put the sign up, come and register for kindergarten. That's what the province of Ontario does. We put our signs up, and it's open, come up for ready. And I will let you know this too, as a side, with your permission. I regularly get phone calls from your community that come to me. I get letters that are copied to the Premier saying, why are you advertising? It's a public education, you shouldn't do this. And with one, you may remember this, a nasty, nasty letter sent to everybody about this saying, this is a waste of public taxpayers' money to advertise something that everyone has a right to do. And what happened was the minister's office and then the Premier's office sent me back all of her clippings. The woman cut every single one of our clippings out and sent them back to us saying this is a huge waste of money. And that's a constituencies out there as well. And of course, that person's not reading Facebook or following the social media. But I think that we may not have the total in-house sophistication to totally answer this question. And I think that will mean a budget change. I think I'd like to report back to you on that, because then we're going to have to take it from somewhere. And I think that this is going to be dynamic. So
you want a full budget cycle to put the plan together?
No, I don't. I think this is too urgent a problem. I think we have talked about market share, and that really is the same thing for ages. We have tried some interesting things. We're doing some brand new things. I think we have to do a deeper dive, and I think we brought in-house people to help us. But this is more than just having a snappy webpage. We've got to do it. With your support, with this direction, I'd bring back probably this budget again and say what I'm going to do and what we propose to do with it, because I think there's a part of this is dramatic.
4 months?
I'd like to bring a budget proposal back for approximately January 1st to begin on the process. We'll sort of move the budget around in-house to bring in this expertise, and then to go out this in a way. And I think we're going to have thick skin, because some people are going to ask us why we're doing this.
So then by the second meeting in January, that gives them some flexibility.
That's when we'll come back with a formalized budget, and we'll give you
Everybody
the
okay
first
with
draft.
that? Everybody okay with that? John?
As mover of the motion, I thought I'd get to speak first, but I guess not.
Yeah, you're wrong. I thought that, anyway, does that bother you that we put that time in?
No, I think the timing is good, because as long as our target is the registration for spring, and don't forget that in high schools that registration starts in February, if not even sooner.
Yeah. Go ahead,
John. Just to go back to this, this is really a kindergarten issue. We presented some data before that I don't lost the Board of Trustees. We pick up on an average of, Phil, anywhere to 400 kids per year at the secondary level that come to us from our co-terminus French Catholic and Catholic boards. In fact, we enjoy a very good reputation as getting kids across the line in high school as we go through, and we do attract the secondary special education or IEP intense kids, but at that level we are actually, Phil, is it fair to say our market share there is regularly, it increases at a rate of 400 to 500 kids a year.
True, 400 is remarkable, but perhaps it could be 600.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that I wanted to mention with regard to this motion is that I want to emphasize that my intent, at least, is that it be not only a Communications Relation Management Department initiative, but that it be a local school
Yeah, well,
initiative.
absolutely.
I think the two must be parallel.
Okay, so John, you're gonna move it, and seconded, I just need a seconder, we'll continue conversation, but I just wanna have it, trustee Carpenter. And, okay, so any further comments, trustee Swan?
I'm just confused a little bit here. So if we pass this motion, and the director said he's gonna have to bring in a third party probably to work on this, because we don't have the in-house. And he's gonna bring back the budget after it's been reworked. Is this saying that they're gonna ask for more money, or are we gonna have an area where we can take out of to put into? Because I'm not really in favor of increasing the budget specifically for this.
Increasing communications budget,
Yeah.
or,
May I respond?
yeah, go ahead.
First of all, trustee Swan, I've got the clear direction from the board that we don't have any extra money. This will have to be at the senior table, a look at looking at budgets. In a $306 million budget, my thumbnail sketch is that I don't see this as multi-million-dollar. In fact, I don't see it at all. I think this would be expertise that would be, we wouldn't be hiring someone. This would be contract related or connecting with a marketing organization that has real broad understanding of public sector marketing. So far, when we look at this, some of the hospitals have some of the best brand marketing as you go through. In Ontario, there's not been, other than the community colleges that are into this, some of the boards are not into this level. Yet we have been on the cutting edge for the last 10 years because we've asked these questions before other boards. Other boards in Ontario are just recognizing now that, boy, we got to fight for every child. It's really changed the directors' meetings and so forth as we go through and the code. So I don't see this being multi-thousands, but we are going to have to perhaps reshape some budgets within the organization. I think we probably, I'm going to come back with a report of where we've taken it from, so that you understand that we haven't created an additional piece on this, if of course the motion passes.
Also remember that we do have a hiring freeze in effect anyway, so. Trustee McCray.
Through you, Chair. I just want to make a very positive point, and that's about the 96% of permanent staff with the Upper Canada District School Board have taken the courses on how they present things. What do you call that?
Customer service?
Customer service, sorry. That's what I was looking for, customer service. And it's been quite apparent to me as I travel around the schools. The staff are living and breathing that. And it's very, very reassuring as a parent. And the other thing I would like to say is that teachers are communicating on a daily basis with the parents. Every teacher, almost every teacher is doing that. And that really, really surprised me. And I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm the trustee and I have two students at Almonte District High School. No, when I talk to other parents, the same thing is happening there. So I have to say that that training that was provided to those students, you've done an incredible job in improving the communications and relationships with parents. So I wanted to applaud you for that. But there is one other area that kind of concerns me, and that's under staff development and crisis management. And what is stated here is that we're in the early stages of development, recognizing that communication support is a critical component of crisis management. The communication is the key to it in terms of an emergency situation. And I just wondered what was our plan for this and our timeline for this, something as important as crisis management.
Okay, so just as a matter of rules of order, Trustee McCray,
Yeah.
I probably should have mentioned it, but I really need to, because I have a motion on the floor, I really need to confine the comments to the motion. So,
Okay.
We'll come back to you, okay? So, we have a motion on the floor, and let's continue on with that, and then we'll come back to finish the conversation about the communication plan. So I'm looking for comments specifically on the motion. Trustee Karkner?
Well, it was a comment that the director made in reference to this motion about probably or might have to hire or put on contract someone to do the expertise work in marketing. And I'm just curious, in the chart in our books on page 2, salaries, is that the people that are already here, or is that for such things as contractors?
Through you, Chair, no, there's nothing in there to recognize contract. And to be quite frank, I'm not sure if I would hire a person on contract. That's maybe retaining, as we did once before with Amber Mack, who was coming to us to help us with our social media, where we brought her down for a day or two. She worked with our senior team, she worked with our communications department on web-based social media and the impact of social media, and then she shaped a lot of our thinking on how we were going to go out and train our office administrators in Facebook and Facebook development. I think it'd be remarkable to find out the impact that had for the small amount of money. On this one here, this is the scope of this is larger. Although John, I think, has expanded the focus a bit to the secondary retention and sustaining, which I totally agree with. But it had its roots in capture rate at kindergarten, where we know that, and Phil's presented this data before, at the end of kindergarten, if you get them in the doors, in all likelihood, they stay with you for upwards to 10 years. And so this is why it's critical that we really understand the 0 to 4 marketing plan, and the moms and dads and the families that make the decisions. How do we shape that thought management? And I don't know the person. I do know that the hospital is doing this. I've been in contact with several hospitals, communications departments that have really shaped the design of the message of the hospital. And I think that I would have to come back and tell you what but I do not see this expanding the department by people. I don't even see this. At this point, I don't want to prejudice this work in the community department with my perspective, but I think this will involve connecting with a marketing firm that really understands our problem.
I think that, in the context of this, one thing that we don't want to lose is that there's already a fair amount of money being spent on kindergarten registration, whether it's high schools renting signs or doing some of the work that they do locally, right on through to having staff targeted towards dealing with the registration issue, designing forms, the maintenance of the forms. I mean, there's already people involved. Remember too, this is kind of like if we were a for-profit business. This is how you get business. So think of it that way. But also, I think this is the more important. I don't believe that this is saying go away and do it. I think it's to devise a strategy, and in doing the strategy, that implies to me that it's going to come back to here. And if David comes and makes a compelling case that yes, we need to hire, contract, spend money, then that's really the time that you would analyze that. It's kind of hard to judge future expenditures when we really don't know what it is that he's asking. I think that the message is that if you can do it without having to augment budgets, then that's probably the soundest. But I want to make sure that I'm trying to get the conversation to focus in on the motion rather than sort of predetermining where we're going to go with it too much. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Can we see the motion?
So the motion, I'll read it again if you like. I don't need the whereas, it's just be it resolved that the director devise a strategy by the second meeting in January 2015 for increasing the capture rate for each school, and that goal be included in school success plans. In school success plans, actually, that's good. Okay, so any more comments on this? Go ahead.
Just clarifying what you just read there, that he
Yeah.
is going to direct the schools to put it in their success plans, or are the schools gonna develop it do their own, in their own school success plans?
The motion asks for the schools to add it as a goal.
Oh,
So
all
they'll
right.
have a goal,
I can't.
and then I guess they would develop their own sort of thinking around it.
Well, I would say from my perspective, through you, Chair, to the trustees, we don't have great expertise, and the school principals did. Marketing at the principal's course is not a big assignment. In fact, I've taught the principal's course, I've lectured the principal's course. This does not come up, how to pick good signs, good colors, good backdrops, and all that stuff, because thought management, thought leadership is what we're being involved in here, is because we're trying to shape the culture of our communities to choose us. That's not an expertise that principals have. What we have to do is in-house is figure it out so that we can educate and train our principals. Why I'm very hopeful about this and optimistic is that we had office administrators and principals who weren't on Facebook. And Cindy, it's interesting, Cindy sitting there, she knows perfectly well that we're well above, I think, the last number, how many schools now are on Facebook with a Facebook presence? Every school. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, we'd have had that. We have school boards that won't allow Facebook, and we're doing presentations full on Facebook. We now have teachers and schools that do almost the entire communication with their parents with Facebook. So we know we can do it. We just want to make sure we get the right message. So we're going to expect every school to have a marketing campaign, but we're probably going to have to teach them how to do it. It's more than just sort of taking a rental sign and putting it out there with an arrow pointing school kindergarten registration, which we find is not a bad idea either. So I think it has to be sophisticated, and we have to help them too.
I think that, in part, why I think that John's motion is powerful is that even if there isn't another penny spent at any level, just our individuals, our office administrators, our teachers, our principals, just having it in their head that, hey, as well as this, I'm also a recruitment officer. And whether that's, maybe the biggest expenditure is going to be $10 on some business cards, so that, hey, here's our school website, here's a nice card that has all the contact information. So I think that it's, we're really good in education at making things into a bigger problem than they really are. So I think that there's a lot of good in this. And I think that the big step is just taking the step that we're going to make it something that's on the forefront of what we do. Chair shouldn't do that, but I just did. So, make speeches. Any other comments? I know, I've never done that before. Is there anything else? Okay. So, on this particular motion, we're not done talking about this update yet. We're going to take a vote.
Has it come up yet?
Yeah, it was a little slow, but so.
I don't have it, so I guess I'm in favor of my own motion.
Trustee Buckland, are you still with us? Trustee McPherson, you in favor, or?
Well, the problem is that I don't like the way it's worded. Is the director, maybe I can't ask a question, you can rule me out of order. I just need clarification.
Well, ask the question and then I can decide whether I'm going to rule you
You're
out.
asking the director to develop a strategy for increasing the capture rate in each school.
For each school. For each school.
For each school. So, is he to do that, or is it for our schools?
No, I think the way it reads is for increasing the capture rate for each school. So it's not to increase the capture rate generally, but look at it more as the ultimate goal is to see every school go up, not just the boards go up. That's what I think the motion says. Okay. So you weren't out of order. Okay. All right. So continue conversation. Now I'll come back to you, Trustee McRae.
Okay, well.
Can you just briefly just remind us what you asked or commented on?
It had to do with staff development and crisis management.
Right, that's right. So in the past, it was just the communication department that looked after that, right? Just handled that. So you want to talk about which, or Phil, do you want to talk about where you're going with it?
Let me start through you, Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
That's Phil. This is not that we're not doing an effective job here, is that we've had changes in staff and there's training going to be necessary. In fact, you take a look most recently at a couple of major communication issues with difficulties in school, extremely well handled. We were there and so forth, but we understand with Facebook and media and so forth that there's some new things that we really have to pay attention to. You guys are at the table, you know that we've handled our crises really well. Ted Kennedy began that process when I gave it as a job for him to create our crisis response team, and with a communications component to it. We're really examining all of that now to make sure that we will continue to respond to issues in a comprehensive way in the Facebook era. When Ted began this process, I believe in 2007, 2006, there was no such thing as Facebook or social media like this. And what we have to take a look at, and I say this with a great deal of caution, in John's area, we had a very tragic event, and the police came to us and said, don't say a word. And we said, no, we've got to say something. And they said, you're not allowed to, and they had no right to tell us that. But by the time we got turned around in the communications department to say we better put something out there, the kids were already Twittering, and the kids were already Facebooking, and the story inaccurately was playing out in the community. So what we're trying to understand here in this Facebook, social media knee-jerk reaction is to determine how we message, and David Coons, remember, that was for us, to have a little crisis in the middle of a crisis is difficult, so that's what we're examining. We've responded well, we communicate once we get there, but the critically handling how we would deal with the social media is what we're looking at there. Is that fair, Phil?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, adding to what the director has said, because this is a budget update report, this is specific to the professional development line of the budget, so we're just simply saying we see the need, a component of the $33,000 that's in that budget line, that part of that be attributed to professional development specifically on this area of need.
Okay, anything else? Trustee McAllister.
I have a question with regard to Schedule A, that is the Facebook and Twitter use. Without getting into the comparisons and the specifics, some families of schools and some schools are doing much better than others. However, what are you doing to address this? Because it is the policy of the board that our social media policy is that schools avail themselves of Facebook and Twitter, and some are not doing very much, so others are doing a fantastic job.
Through you, Chair, my simple answer is to stay the course. We've seen definitely from these figures an improvement in the number of viewerships. We're also continuing to examine every school's Facebook site to monitor the quality and of the content and the number of viewers. So we're going to continue to get at that specific level of support based on a differentiation of school needs based on these analyses.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, Trustee McAllister, to take note in Terry Gardner's presentation, that's a part of the audits that will be going on in the schools too, to go in and ask the questions, examine the Facebook. We're in there. In fact, Cindy's involved in audits on top of the audits from her perspective, that she's going in and doing this as our sort of ears and eyes and nose on Facebook. But And may I, through you, Cindy, how many audits have you done?
Just the two with the new template.
The new template.
Working on those.
And last year, how many audits did you work on?
They were very informal audits, but I did probably 30.
Thank you.
Not everybody's been trained yet. So.
So just in case that wasn't picked up, Cindy's done 2 audits this year, and you did 30 last year. 30 of
Very
the schools.
informal.
Yeah, not at this level of detail.
All right, any other, Trustee McDonald?
I just wanted to point out that for the rest of the trustees, that we have the Facebook and Twitter as a means of communication right now to get messaging out. But there are other tools that are being worked on as we speak that potentially aren't coming through the communication department, which will enhance dramatically the communication opportunities that we have with our parents. So Twitter and Facebook is a good piece to capture the moment. But our messaging aspect is going to have some more meat to it. Twitter and Facebook also gives us a public presence, and we need to be mindful of that as well. Is that it's not only for mom and dad; it's the community at large that gets to see our schools and the things that are happening in our schools. So that's an important aspect.
Anything else? Okay, Lisa, can you pull up my that page I sent you? So I have a question. So our critical success factors state that we want our communication to be, amongst other things, branded. And I have increasingly become aware, like I said earlier, that sometimes I think we tend to look at all the hard problems rather than the easy problems to fix. And I have been commenting and pointing out repeated occurrences of this over the years of communication that comes home that has no branding, and I've taken out the teacher's name here because it's not an effort to point at her, but this is a piece of communication. If you scroll down, please. I came home to my home from one of our children, and you can't tell me what school board, you can't tell me what school, you can't tell me anything. There's nothing on this. There's no way of asking a question to the teacher. There's no email. There's nothing. And I really would, this is a low cost, if any, directive perhaps, or something that needs to be made, that this is just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable to send pieces of paper home that have nothing on them. At least that's my position, and that's what we stated in the critical success factors, that it must be branded. So I guess I want to know what part, if any, of your budget or of the resources are going to be applied to achieve this aspect of the critical success factors.
Well, first of all, not defending this, I think that this teacher sent home something that 99% of the teachers in our board would do. This is a note to go home to parents, and probably, as I go back to an early comment I made, teachers don't talk about branding. They're talking about teaching kids and so forth. I think this is low-hanging fruit. It's been proven with our in-servicing our office administrative principals that we can do this. This would be one of those things that would be a training budget. This would be something where we get together to share with the principals. This is a really good example of how to brand a note going home to parents. Here's a not so good brand. And then the whole aspect that we look at, this was sent home as a paper?
Yep.
Okay. We have, as Trustee McRae referred to, we have hundreds of thousands of notes going home through emails now to kids through a variety of sources that have no brand other than the email it went on. And what I'd like to think is that if we're going to move into this, is that we start to understand that we want our brand on all the stuff that goes out. That will be some training, and it's going to be some development. I see it as low-hanging fruit. I think it's something in compliance. I do know this. and you guys will know this, so we'll have some teachers saying, you know, I got a very busy day, why are you doing this to me, as you go through. And what we have to do, as was already said around this table, everyone is a recruiter and marketer for the board, help us, and I think this can be done.
I will just say that I'm only commenting on the lack of branding on this. The actual content was very good.
Yes, it was.
And very helpful, and certainly I don't, as a rule, don't see enough of this coming home from my kids. However, it was unfortunately the example that was in the recycling bin. Trustee McPherson.
Okay, I like branding. Every morning I meet a white van, and there's a picture of a child on the side of it, and a great big 1-800 number, and it says Ottawa Carleton Catholic District School Board. And I meet other white vans that are working on our behalf that say nothing on it. A van for the courier service is a rolling billboard. We need to take one of these wonderful pictures that we have of our children having fun going to school, and we need to take that 800 number and put it there 6 inches high. And it's cheap advertising. And I think, and I realize it's going to cost you a bit of money, but if you're going to get aggressive about marketing, you have to look at all avenues. I'm not suggesting that board employees walk around with a sign on, but when we have a vehicle like that, then we should, because those vehicles go from Pakenham to Brockville, they're all over the place. And our website, our web page, we need to take advantage of that.
Director?
First of all, Trustee McPherson, I think that should be rolled into the entire comprehensive plan. Some boards, and I'm not sure the history of our board or the culture, other boards I've worked for, their vehicles and their buses, even in stay-out style things, clearly mark that this bus is running for Upper Canada. This bus is running for the Peel Board. This bus is running for Niagara. This vehicle, the plumbing vehicle, the carpentry staff, this vehicle's Upper Canada. I know some boards, and I don't necessarily understand the culture of here, have worried that, you know, what if the guy who's driving or she's driving and they stop at the Brewers Retail, with that. And I think with what you're saying, we've got to put that in the hopper, and if we have to change behavior, have to change the culture, we have to do it as we go through. And the board vehicles, and I'm not sure how many we have, if we go to an agency and say, use that respectfully, there, with the geography of this board and traveling around, it's a national billboard, then I think this is the feedback, and it's got to go into the comprehensive plan. And although I'm not sure how many people that will drive to kindergarten registration, it does talk about our brand across Eastern Ontario. But I think that should go into part of the debate that we would have with a marketing firm that talks about the issue. See, I've begun these discussions with a marketing firm only because my son's best man at his wedding is a leading marketer in Canada and so forth. And he said, it's thought management, thought leadership, and your brand has to tie into what you're trying to say. And what he did at some point as I'm sitting across from him, I realized this young man from Cornwall, who's 35 now, who's doing very, very well, he was talking about stuff I had no idea about. And I said, you know something, I feel like I don't know that I don't know. And it just gave me enough understanding that these people understand those things. I think we have to listen to them, we have to talk to them, we have to tell them about our problem, share it with them, listen, and then we have to come back and try some things out. And the one that you've raised is one, and there may be some others as you go through, and I think we have to move to a higher level of sophistication. In fact, this young man's mother did teach for us in Ottawa, a very interesting talk, and I didn't know he knew as much as he did. At the end, he finally, after an hour and a half, I think he said, could you just leave me alone? Because I just sat there and just took it in. But he was talking about all of these pieces, they all have to be connected. And he just finished the campaign, a 2-year campaign for the World Soccer FIFA in Portland. It was quite interesting. And it was no surprise where the advertising was, where the ball went, and how the ads were connected with all of the things. And I realized that I didn't know enough. And I go back to what Trustee Small was saying, is that we don't have the in-house expertise. But I don't believe we need to hire it. I think we have to access it and become smarter with it.
Trustee McMillan.
Through you, Chair. I'm fairly quiet on this whole conversation, but I want to kind of comment on what the director has said and what you've said about, I think, what we classify as low-hanging fruit. But I've never seen any of that kind of thing as low-hanging fruit. I think it is probably the most powerful of the things we do. And that's the communication that comes from the classroom, comes from the teacher, and comes from the voice of all of our employees. And I think it's a matter of, this fits into the motion that we just were working on, is if we are going to expect our schools to improve the capture rate, then every person becomes a marketer. But they have to become a marketer in their mindset as much as in their actions. And when you are working in a classroom and you are sending something home as you receive, Chair, the thought isn't there right now that it should have a brand to it, because I'm sure, just on the defense of the teacher, or most teachers that do this, it's just simple communication. However, once we create a mindset where the understanding is that everything that you do and everything you say can contribute to sending a more positive message in terms of who we are and what we are, then I think this whole thing is going to become much more powerful. And that's where, we have to look at training of the system in terms of starting to think about our actions in terms of how are we seen, how are we viewed by the public, how do we want to be seen, and to realize that children in our schools equates to work, equates to jobs, it equates to all of the things we stand for. And let's face it, the more kids we can get into our system, the more kids can be exposed to the character that we stand for. And I think it's just a matter of creating a mindset in everyone in the organization that everything we do is a reflection of us, and we look at it through marketing eyes. But it's a mindset, and it ties in. It's not low-hanging fruit to me. That's the big stuff.
Yeah, Claire, I'm not saying it's low-hanging fruit.
No, but
I think it's an early capture. It's something that we can do right away. Yeah. And I'm saying this in a positive. I think it's something that we can do very early. And that's a positive. It wasn't low-hanging fruit like that. It was that we can do this with some very early, quick things, asking people and changing mindsets that they were all in marketing. Because if we train our office administrators to help our staff and our principals out to say, that's going home, it should have this and this on it, and that's what I meant by low-hanging. That's something through some clear directions that we can do. The idea of changing a culture is a very difficult piece.
Trustee Swan?
I just wanted to say, I agree with the director that if something comes home, it should have this, or this on it, whether it be email, phone number, etc. But I also think that example is something that could engage that student. For that age group, when I read what was written in the letter, I thought that was very good information coming home to the parent. But at that age, the child might actually be interested, say, oh mom, what does it say? Or dad, what does it say? Versus board issued paper, and here's a note for you. And let me read it. I just think that was kind of targeted to the age group. And it could just use a few more, we need this, this, and this on it. But I thought it was very effective because I think it would engage the student.
Any other comments? Great. So, and I know that with this one, just in my own sort of search every now and then, at one point when I ran out of business cards, I thought, well, I'll just order some more, and I was going to create my own. I didn't in the end do it because one of the challenges was just finding a high-res graphic. And I think, we could start by just making sure that staff get an email that have our logo, just the files that they would need, and those that wanted to could drag and drop them in until we have something that's more sophisticated, or even a templated signature. All right, so this is our first of these reports. We're going to have them on a number going forward. So remember though that when this comes, this will be this is the equivalent to what we would have had at budget time. So at budget, there may be some modifications, especially if they're altering their budget. Going forward, although they didn't have enough time, communication should almost be planning far enough ahead, or whoever's coming needs to plan far enough ahead that they can start to give us an idea where the next budget is going to. We didn't ask that question this time. It's not really an analysis of the current budget, but should be, it's building towards the next budget. So we didn't get into a lot of that specifically, but in generalities, I think we did. So thank you, and thank you, Phil, and the rest of your team. Thanks. Okay, we're going to now move to our next item, which is an enrollment update, which is Mr. Dawes.
Actually, through you, Chair, I'd like to take the opportunity to present Sarah Crawford, our Manager of Planning and Service Excellence. And the intention here is to give trustees a preliminary overview of our enrollments to date. And these are the enrollments that we would traditionally report on for October the 31st as a definitive measure, but we wanted to bring you up to speed with where enrollments are right now on a school-by-school and system basis. So over to Sarah, thank you.
Through you, Chair. As Phil mentioned, the enrollment numbers that I'll provide to you today, that part of the attachments that you have, they're preliminary with, we're 3 weeks into the school year and still 6 weeks away from the October 31st ministry reporting deadline. So there's a lot of work being done at schools in terms of verifying data and making sure everything is accurate leading up to that date. So this is a point in time. The attachments show the enrollments up to September 18th. And what I wanted to refer to too is that the report that we pull at this time of year is called the original versus updated ADE report, and really it pulls enrollment data, headcount, and FTE from Power School, and it's into the format that you see here. The format that you see here is a work in progress. So I want to apologize ahead of time because you may have noticed some titles out of place and things like that, because we're making a sincere effort to account for the new organization structure over the summer. So while our enrollments are being confirmed, we'll go back and make it a little bit better looking for the end of October. So if you can bear with some of those nuances as we go through, that would be good. So you may all be familiar, but I just recap what the average daily enrollment is. And that's the key figure that planning provides to input into the budgeting process and as well as staffing. And it's what the ministry requires us to report. Basically what it is the October full-time equivalent number. So in elementary, it used to mean that since our kindergarten kids were in school half day, they would count as half a student. That's not the case anymore. All our kindergartens are 1 FTE right now. In secondary, it could just account for a less than full course load. So we have the October full-time equivalent plus the March full-time equivalent, and we divide that by 2, and that's how you get the average daily enrollment. When we look at this report, it's set up so that we can take a look at what our original projections look like by school, for ADE, and as our enrollments come in, we can project what the ADE will be for the end of this year. So as you can imagine, as changes are made, it's a moving target, but it gives us the best projection for the end of the year that we can work with. So as we go through, I just wanted to really provide you briefly with the elementary and secondary figures. Lisa, if you could. Oh. Is that the right one? Elementary. Okay. So very briefly, and because the numbers are provided in your attachments, I just wanted to give you an idea of where we are coming in from where we originally projected at budget time. in the spring. And as it looks now, our head count is coming in 42 higher, and you can see the grade differences. It's very much spread out across grades, and our AD is looking like it will be 58 higher than we projected originally. With that being said, we are 117 lower than last year's enrollment, so we are still feeling the impact of enrollment decline. And as you would expect, just like when we were looking at the capture rate, we'll see a variation by school. Some are coming in above projections and some are coming in below, but overall we are coming in ahead of projections. And I would add too, on the elementary front, probably for the next 3 years, we're looking at, a similar decrease of 100 or so per year before we start leveling off.
Just to interject, Sarah, I don't have your cuts for you.
Sure.
One of the things that was confusing, and Trustee McDonald will support me on this, years ago, this was misinterpreted that the 117 that were down, somehow those kids have gone to a different board. They just weren't born.
Yeah.
We're talking about declining enrollment. They're not here as you go through. And I was dealing with a couple of situations with principals and people who didn't understand we're having declining enrollment. I just sustained it, didn't they? As you know, we're not replacing ourselves at the rate that we did, our mothers and fathers and so forth. So I just want to make it clear that there's no confusion, and I'm not saying people don't get it. This is that some people were confused. They thought that the 117 had left and gone. We're projecting fewer births over this period of time. However, Phil says there's good news at the 0 to 4 or 5 level. It appears that we are starting to move up at a higher rate, but that's going to work its way through the system. But we still have the impact of the decline enrollment that really impacted on the elementary junior panel over the last 7 years is now heavily impacting on our secondary schools. And if you take a look at those numbers, that piece is having a real impact on how we do business at the secondary panel. Just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
And a good way to look at that is if you look at the grade 8 numbers, there's 1,800, and if you look at the JK numbers, there's 1,600, and that's almost what we would project. It's almost that simple. It's not that they're disappearing partway through the year, it's just demographics. Thank you. So on the secondary panel, as Director mentioned, the enrollment decline impacting secondary panel in the last 2 years were 1,000 lower than 2011, essentially, between 2011 and 2013. Up on the slide, I provided just the regular day school enrollments at this time. So those are our typical high schools. We are, and I provide this because their numbers are steadying out in terms of how many changes we're seeing per day. And it would appear that our projected for the end of the year would be 10 above what we projected last spring on the system level. And again, on the secondary panel, we see some schools where there's variation, some are up and some are down. And the TR Leger alternative enrollments are not provided today because, and this was brought up earlier today in one of the other reports, was the 15-day rule. On Monday was the 15th day. And so there is a lot of those calls that we were talking about, are you coming back? And making sure that the registers are accurate. And because of the nature of the school, there are significant numbers. As it stands now, it would look, and that's provided in your attachment, that we are 175 higher than projected at this point. But there is data cleanup going on at the moment, specific to the 15-day rule to a large extent.
Okay.
So that's a brief presentation because it is preliminary. We would like to come back and provide a more detailed analysis as we firm things up.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments, questions? Trustee McPherson.
I don't know whether it's appropriate this point in time or not, but as I look over specifically the enrollment in the elementary level, we have 14 schools with under 100 students and several with under 50. Not suggesting a comprehensive board-wide review similar to Boundary 2020, but given the numbers in some of our schools, is it not pertinent that perhaps within the next term of the board that we go back in and look at some of these fragile areas with a mind to consolidation, enhancement, or whatever, come up with some solutions? Because when I see a school with 42 kids in it in 8 grades, and you have one child registered in the kindergarten, my question is, are we going to allow these schools to wither and dry up on the vine, or are we going to step in and do something? And I know Boundary 2020 was a brave step. We closed some schools, and to be honest with you, we still have some issues out there. And I'll speak for the Perth family of schools. I have 400 empty spaces in my family of schools. That's the equivalent of 2 elementary schools. Not making a motion, I'm putting out there for thought.
Here's one of the things that Management Council pays attention to are the memos that come out of the ministry, and first week of September, I think it was, a note came out from the ministry asking boards to develop long-term strategy around building replacement and school consolidation. So just in prep for that, we've asked Jeremy to start thinking about that, because at this moment, there's no plan to close any schools, consolidate any schools. So that's just sort of the very beginning, and that'll be brought to the board at some point, and at that point, the next steps can be.
If I'm interpreting what you're saying is right, we've already kind of begun the process.
Yeah, it is, and to be honest, it's part of sort of the ongoing work that facilities does, and just the review of the use of buildings. But obviously, the whole board will have to consider other things. Yeah, that's where it is right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Trustee Swan.
And in regards to the small school numbers, I looked at this quite extensively today. I mean, we're still waiting for the report to come back on the early French immersion sites as well. So I think that could impact our numbers in our smaller schools in some areas, at least I know in one of mine, if it becomes an EFI site. So I think there's a lot more, like Craig said, for the bigger picture before we move over to our process.
Trustee Kirkner.
I just have a question on the document that I'm confused. What else is new? On the page it said alternative schools. I understand T.R. Leger is an alternative school, but what is Prescott Russell Eastern Ontario? I have no idea what that is. And I'm from Prescott Russell.
It's an alternative site.
It's a T.R. Leger site, but is it still? Do we still have it?
Yes, we do.
Where is it?
Can I speak to it? It is T.R. Leger now. We used to be in a partnership with the 2 other boards, and we dissolved that partnership. But it has a separate Mident number, so we have to keep the name. But it's right now it's T.R. Leger, Prescott Russell.
Thank you.
So the Mident number is a ministry number that's assigned, just general interest, that's assigned to a school.
And we'd have to close the school to lose the number. So we would lose service. Lose the number. It's a technicality.
Any other comments, questions? Did I see a hand over here? Trustee McDonald? Trustee McDonald?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you very much for that report. We'll be having sort of a sister to this report with staffing enrollment linked together coming up end of September, beginning of October, right?
Yes. When we have a firm numbers. May I comment for a moment? Sure. To our trustees, I have a letter that went to the deputy minister and to all of the directors of education, asking for us to re-examine the times that money comes out to transfer back to the boards. What you saw, particularly in the secondary school numbers, is very interesting, because on October the 31st and then November 1st, our numbers in secondary will be up over 200 on an average. With Phil, is it fair to say? And those 200 kids are with us, being educated by us, but the money will all go to the separate board right through until the end of March. For us, and I've done the calculations, for us we're educating kids in our school system, putting us over class caps and so forth, because, and this isn't popularly said, and I'm going to take the risk of being blunt, is that the kids who come to us at the particular time may have a negative impact on the performance of another school. We are proud of the fact that all means all, but when you pick up school as children from other schools at that time, often they're in a negative situation, a negative cycle, and they're not too concerned about having a great test or doing the LSATs or the OLSATs or whatever test and so forth. And it has a negative impact on our numbers as you go through. And I know some places they've called this the annual turkey dump as you go through. We don't call it that. When a child comes to us, whatever space they're in, it's our time to educate them. And so we've made a call, I personally made a call to the deputy minister to examine when a student comes to a board, that could we not look at it more timely with all the technology now, and the issue that every child has a number, is that when they re-register with us, is that possible once a month or whatever, is that we recalibrate for funding purposes. I wanted to share that with you, because some would say that's provocative. It's just the truth as you go through. And at that end of the table, everyone knows what I'm talking about, and every principal in Ontario knows what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you're having things in the media, it's very difficult to tell that story. So I want you to know that we will go up through the course of the year as kids struggle with other school districts and schools, and we will pick them up and we will educate them to the best of our ability and give them the rigorous care that you as trustees expect us to have.
If I might, no other trustees with questions. When you prepare a report like this, what do you do with it? And the actual staffing, use it for staffing, I understand that. But how, is there a time when you would sit back and say that one school that had in grade 1 40 kids, and then in grade 2 27, and then in grade 3 41, and there'd be such a wide fluctuation? Do you ever go back and look at the story as to why that happened?
Yep. Through you, Chair, Phil, if you want to jump in. We would do exactly that, and because we're at a preliminary stage right now, and we mentioned there are some variations between projections, those are notes to go back and have closer look at them. Some of those reasons we know. Some school principals ask us for that type of information, and they want to take a look at how their retention is from year to year, and if they can reverse that cycle. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at the data. Immediately, staffing is the main one at the moment, to get that information timely so we can make decisions in the first 2 weeks of school. But there, there are lots of applications to the data.
In this area in the past, we can get quite granular. We've gone and seen, as you've described, 19 kids exit grade 6, and we expect them to show up at Perth Secondary School, and they've gone to St. Dominique's or so of that nature. And we've actually gone and made the call to the principal and the teacher and said what happened. And in one case, and this was up in Carlton Place, we lost 20 kids, and a very outspoken, very talented saleswoman, young lady in the grade 6, just convinced the whole class that the music program at the school was just so good they all should go together. And it's amazing when a youngster can do that, and we've had to really talk about those types of things and work with our principals, say how do we prevent that type of things we go through. And again, going back to something said earlier, is how do we ensure that that conversation is going up and that we are, all of us, marketers and agents of ensuring kids come with us. But that's as deep as we've gotten.
So, just in looking that this report is going to become, I mean, we've received this report before, so I don't want to leave anybody with the idea that we haven't, but now it's going to be very cyclical, and it's part of a process. Would there be a way of enhancing the report or getting the report so that it's not paper-based, that it's electronic, and would allow us or allow you to take those notes and add them so that we could just simply click that box and populate it? Now, I don't know, I know that you're working with that firm that's doing a dashboard for you, whether this is part of that, or whether this could become part of it, but just sort of just thinking on how it could become a more effective tool for the trustees to use. Is that possible? Or, I mean, anything's possible, I understand, but in the realm of what we can do, is it possible?
Through you, Chair, I think it's an interesting idea. Technically, I wouldn't see that as a challenge. I would say the more difficult aspect of what you're suggesting is the time requirement to get the feedback from the principals and staff in school with those specific situations. And depending on where we are in the timeline cycle of enrollment reporting as it relates to staffing process, we do engage in those discussions. It just might not be this early in the year. So when we get involved in staffing and the enrollment projections process, we have a conversation with virtually every principal in our system. And so we engage into that level of discussion. It might not, how do I word this? Earlier on, we might want to be in touch with school principals that have a more serious deviation from the projected enrollment, but ultimately everybody gets a conversation as it aligns with the staffing process. So once that information is available, putting it on a spreadsheet or some technical format is not a challenge. It's just engaging in that discussion that's a bit more time.
So I guess, yeah, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't expect that it would travel to the board at this time. They just, when a trustee would go to this page 6 months and look at it, they would see that there had been an update and note or whatever. And it may be that they don't even look at it till the next year, but still, I mean, that information for that class and the reason for it being so out of whack with the rest of the school population is going to follow. That information is going to be the same, I would think, for year to year. I mean, unless the class all of a sudden goes up. But
through you, Chair, again, adding to this interesting conversation. We tend to develop our enrollment projections through a variety of methodologies. One is in looking at enrollment as it relates to the population. The other is from the perspective of retention. Sometimes you might look at a grade enrollment and want an answer for it, and quite frankly, the answer is not as forthcoming as you would hope. So again, it's a bit of conjecture. We're interested in what the principals and staff have to offer, but sometimes it's quite frankly not as illuminating as we would prefer. It's just a strange year.
Okay, anything else? All right, thanks very much. Appreciate that work. Now, is the other side of the table going to do any work at all tonight, or no? That side over there?
Well, they've been working real hard, just haven't seen it.
Okay. Side on the trustee table is working hard. Mr. McAllister, the next item titled Wage Freeze is yours.
Thank you, Chair. If you recall, just 2 weeks ago, we passed 2 motions. One was a hiring freeze on employees at the non-instructional employees. The second we did was a motion to ensure that the director would report any overage in department budgets by 3% and to provide a remedy therefore. And part of the rationale for that was essentially based in the duties and powers of boards as outlined in 169.1, which is to promote student achievement and well-being, promote a positive school climate, deliver effective and appropriate education, ensure effective stewardship of the board's resources, and it sort of goes on and on. So, in light of that, in light of those two motions, and in light of what I just referred to as Regulation 169, I am proposing that a similar motion would be in order with regard to a wage freeze, and that is what I am proposing at this time. The board has had a very long and successful history of compliant budgets, and I think our goal, as determined last spring, was to arrive at some point to a truly balanced budget. And there are budgetary pressures, seen and unforeseen. So I think this motion is simply aligned with the other two. So the motion, I think you have it before you there. It reads that essentially be resolved that a wage freeze be implemented immediately subject to pertinent provincial legislation and exceptions approved by the board. So that is my rationale, trustees.
Before I get a seconder, would there be some value in adding contractual obligations? Just like we're not going in and saying that any raise that might occur as a result of a contract, not that I can think of any off the top of my head, but they would cease too, are you?
Or collective agreement.
What did I say?
You said contract.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is the same thing as we're at, because we have to adhere to a collective agreement. If a member owes it after 97 days with the government and so forth, then it clicks in that you would get your grid moved. So there are people in 100,000 who have had the 97 days and then would get the grid movement. I don't think that's what you're talking, John. That if we have a contractual through collective bargaining commitment, obviously we can't do that because that would be a grievance as you go through. But as you go through, so I don't think it's contrary to what you're asking.
No, it's not.
I just want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in sort of a situation where, you know, all of a sudden we have people banging on the door saying, okay, so what was the language? Provincial legislation, collective agreements, and exceptions approved by the board. Does that work?
Right.
So that's moved by Trustee McAllister, seconded by Trustee McMillan. All right, let's discuss this. Trustee McPherson.
First off, is there a timeline on this through the chair? Is there a specific best before date, expiry date? I know we put a timeline on the last motion.
This one, no.
No, okay. Next question. Is this to establish a position on future negotiations? Or is it simply to say, like, how wide a sweep are you doing?
In my opinion, it has nothing to do with nothing to do with any upcoming negotiations.
Okay.
Nor does it have anything to do with teachers or contractual staff in schools.
So essentially, you're talking administrative levels only.
Yes.
Any other comments? Trustee McDonald?
Thank you. I'm supporting the motion. I want to bring trustees up to speed. There is some legislation in place that also mirrors this. So there's a broader Public Sector Act that was passed in 2010 that did expire in 2012, which had a wage restraint, not a freeze, a restraint in place for anybody earning over $100,000. It was amended or added to with a bill in 2012 that brought it back into effect. So in 2012, and the expiry date isn't up on that yet, but I believe there is an expiry to it. So there is a wage restraint for employees that earn over $100,000, and that includes more than schools, more than school boards. It's hospital boards. It's the public sector. So I think the legislation is here. There is a potential end to that at some point. This motion, though, will help augment because the motion also doesn't deal with just 100,000. It's dealing with any wage increase. So I think it's an important piece right now until we have. It falls in line with the other motions that we put in place already in the previous meeting. So as Trustee McAllister's pointed out in his preamble in the motion, I think it's a good one, and I think I'm happy to support it.
First of all, Trustee McDonald's absolutely right, and that's what the Human Resources Department's been following, and that's what we are following, is that the only increase in a person could receive is through contract, through collective bargaining, and only contract and collective, not a personal contract. As you know, I have a personal contract and I've had no increases, and I have not complained to anyone. That's not what this is about. But if a person is promoted, receives a promotion, then, or a extensive change in their assignment, that would go and be considered a promotion, that would reach the piece here, and that's what we have been going on as we would go through. So I want you to understand that in this organization, we've been adhering strictly to the terms of what the bill that created that David referred to.
Any other comments, questions? All right, let's.
Yes, I have a question.
Yep.
Would a reclassification be considered an exception approved by the board?
Well, right now with the other, I think that at this point, any new reclassifications would really be a new position and would have to.
Yeah.
Just through the hiring freeze. And I think that do you have that motion?
Mm-hmm.
I remember how it was written. Okay. So it's directive not to fill any existing positions or create any new positions. So I would interpret that as a reclassification would be a new position. Is that how you read it?
That's how I would. If I was to create an example, would be what Trustee Swan was saying, if we create a new position in communications, I'd have to bring that here to say we're creating a new position here, and this is what the salary would be.
Or
just to
say
let you know.
caps.
Yes.
So if you were, even though they're still principals, you were kind of creating a new, reclassifying them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's call the question, please.
I'm not getting it here, but I'm in favor.
Just waiting on nobody. Awesome, great, thank you, that passes unanimously. I now need a motion to extend.
Provide my update at the next meeting.
Okay, most of your updates due to negotiations anyway, right?
Yep.
So, alright. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how long. Really isn't a lot left, other than, how long do you need, interesting?
No, great.
Okay, so, how long do you need, Trustee McAllister?
1 minute.
So we'll say 15 minutes, so 12:20, 10:20.
I'm gonna time you, John.
All right.
Mike's go off at 58 seconds.
Okay.
I know how to debrief.
Motion to extend, moved by Trustee Partner,
Thank you.
seconded by Trustee McMillan.
I think that's our own Mick.
Go ahead and vote. Just waiting on you, Mr. McPherson.
Didn't pop up on my.
Are you in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. McPherson, Trustee McPherson's in favor.
Oh, wait.
All right, I need a motion to move back into regular board. Moved by Trustee Swan, Trustee Karkner. I hope this side of the senior table is looking to see how hard this side is working over my side of the table.
Thank you. Everyone frown at once, please. Especially those who've been to each night here till 11 last week.
Wow.
Me too.
I know I agree. You should be exhausted.
Okay, go ahead and vote. Okay.
In favor.
Okay, that passes. Report from private session. 3 personal matters were discussed at the September 10th, 2014 meeting. No recommendations are being brought forward to the board. A report from committee of the whole. There is one motion that has come from the committee of the whole from the September 10th meeting, and that is to approve policy 312, trustee honorarium as revised. The principal change in this policy is the removal of payment for attendance. And this policy will take effect on December 1st, 2014. Any comments or questions on that? I need a mover. Trustee McDonald, somebody want to second it? Trustee Swan? Do you have a question?
The information we received from the minister, has that an effect on this motion? No?
No, the trustees were scheduled to get a cost of living increase at the end of this board, but that has been, we've been placed on a freeze until 2018. But we'd be covered under this freeze anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, so essentially, it's a clawback of a 6.2% proposed increase.
I suppose. Whatever.
Can't do nothing about it.
We are the lowest paid people in the board.
It's a wage restraint though, so it means you can get less, but you can't get more.
Well, there you go. That's good language to know.
If it was a freeze, that means you wouldn't go down either.
Right. Because our wages do go down every year.
Should we go down?
Much more we paying to do this job.
Okay. So, yeah, John's in favor, I take it?
Mhm.
So that passes unanimously. I guess I should do that. Special Education Committee report.
Okay, the spec ed plan is now available on the CD, and the SCAC committee was pleased to learn that, and it's also on the website. I reported on several items, notably the Accountability Framework Committee progress. Superintendent Allen commented on 5 items, and Amy Booth, one of the members at large, raised an interesting point with regard to the lack of options for autistic and other challenged students in the area of sports and the arts. And I think this is an issue that bears some study by staff. You know, how do we celebrate the achievement and participation of some students who, because of their disability or exceptionality, are unable to participate? And she suggested such events as the Special Paralympics. There was a concern raised by another member with regard to the course selection progress and the frustration of parents unable to advocate well on behalf of their children, particularly in secondary schools. And I referred that member to a motion that was passed at the June meeting whereby this very issue is going to be addressed. Right? That's it? Hello.
Yeah. What is this CD that you talk about?
DVD.
What's that?
Instead of a.
It's one of those little round discs.
Oh. Didn't think you were even making those
I
things.
understood you, John, because I'm the wizard.
What would you prefer to call it?
I just don't know why you're doing that either. I guess, is there an audience for that?
No, the issue is that we used to have a binder but that thick, and now it's.
Okay.
We can do a thumb drive.
I guess I just don't understand why it's just not on the web, period.
It is.
But why wouldn't that just be the way you do it? Is there a reason? Is there?
This John's one.
I'm going to refer that to the director.
Never mind. I just curious that we would have. I didn't know whether it was because we had to. We do.
Each member of CF must have one. Must have their own. So
Really?
that's why we do.
And access to one on the internet doesn't meet that obligation. That's interesting. See, that's what I wanted to know. Come on.
Thank you, Val.
This side of the table, I tell you guys. All right. Trustee McDonald will give his report at the next meeting, and Student Trustee Cruz, her inaugural report.
Chair, I'll try to make it brief. I just wanted to thank everyone for being so kind and welcoming, first of all. Also, the Student Senate meeting dates are October 17th, December 12th, February 20th, and April 10th. I think everyone's attendance would be appreciated. It's really an amazing group of students, and they all have really great voices, so you should come out and hear them. I want to continue on with Tyler's communication campaign. I'm going to do the Facebook, the Twitter. I really want to stress the importance of emailing, getting in contact with the link. Me and Lise have talked about making a UCDSB Student Senate logo, so that'd be really good. Again, we were talking about branding, so that'd be really good for the Student Senate branding and really getting the word out of really what we do and who we are. And also, the students will really be able to know exactly who their senators are and who to go to when they have questions, concerns, ideas. So that's really good in promotion overall. 2 other things I'm going to be doing this year is I'm going to attend a JARES Vision conference. So the conference is going to train me on STBBIs, which are sexually transmissible and bloodborne infections. This is a direct quote from the website. It reads, "This national conference invites youth leaders from all over Canada to understand relationships between STBBI transmission, bullying, and discrimination." So I really want to bring that back to Student Senate and hope that I can share my learnings with them and hopefully they can share them further. I left links for those if you guys want to learn more about that. Also, I've been in touch with a North Grenville student named Cadence Harris. She's the Eastern Ontario rep for OSED. She's going to be at the meeting in October, and OSED is, I think probably most of you are familiar with what OSED is and what they do, but I think it's a really important cause, and she's going to bring us some campaign ideas and more information about the company and hopefully we can bring that back to our schools as well. So I can't wait to get started on Student Senate, and thanks again everyone for being warm and welcoming, and hopefully I'll see you at the Senate meetings in the future.
Awesome. Excellent report.
I've never commented ever on the student trustees report, but I'd like to just tell you just something I've done to help you, and I hope it helps you. I met with all of the secretary principals, and I asked them specifically, some of the schools, as you know, Shayla, send a different person every single time, and you lose the content and the flow of what you're doing. And I've had a commitment that you're going to have, instead of new people introduced at every single meeting, we're hoping that we create a consistency for you. So I did that based upon information that Jeff and Lisa shared me and some of my own observations. And I hope you find that helpful, and if you give me feedback, if it was helpful, then I will repeat it the following year as well.
Thank you.
And just to, on the particular, the OSED piece, last, what's the date on that? April, we passed a motion, and the motion read, be resolved that the committee of the whole requests the director to address the issue of student use of alcohol and drugs at school events with a rollout of a special charter dedicated to this issue. And I'm hoping that you and the Student Senate, as the charter, should place a focus on student-driven solutions. So, that is timely. Very good. Thank you. And is there anything this end of the table wants to do to redeem itself in the last 5 minutes? No? Okay. All right, Director, do you have any comments?
I'd just like to, our trustees are fully aware of it, they've been in their schools, but and I know Jeremy's very proud of this, but I was at Kurt and I was in Carlton Place, Almonte at our schools, and the facility services people have just done, every year they do a great job, but this has been particularly an example. We had two schools that we didn't think would have their kindergarten being ready till January, and they were online, and the kids were moving into their places in months in advance. So it just shows the dedication and commitment and the granular level of activity they're involved in. And to my knowledge right now, and I've talked with Jeremy on this, we're within the budget with all these things too. But the other piece, and this goes back to something that Trustee McRae said, Jeremy had all of his custodial staff, the women and men who worked for him, at a special sort of rah-rah retreat to get them ready for the new year, and their commitment to service excellence. And not only that, their commitment to our at-risk kids and the 15 and 5% was palpable. And I've been in the schools talking to custodians who have moved to mentor kids to do things, and I'm just so proud of that, the division in our corporation, because they just truly get it, that they're a part of, let me do my job really well, and then let the teachers teach, and I'm going to help you everywhere I can. And that is throughout the area. And if you go in the schools and you have the opportunity, you have here one of our really outstanding custodial or people, thank them. I think they are doing great work. We have one of the oldest inventories of schools of any board in Ontario, because we are one of the oldest communities in North America, and we have old schools that are really tidied up, really nice, and I'm very, very proud of them. From one end, from Cornwall right to Gann, from Gann up to Prescott Russell, across the Lanark, it's overwhelming. Thank you, Jeremy, and I hope that they're not watching this on the web or whatever, but I hope those messages get out to them. We have not overlooked the quality of the work. It's been outstanding.
Well, that's very good, and thank you, Director, for commenting on that side of the table's past work, but they're being measured tonight by what they did tonight. Motion to adjourn, Trustee McMillan, Trustee McAllister. Everybody's in favor, I take it?